You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
I'm like, if this dude is wearing his blue blockers, so am I. I'm doing it too.
Yeah, peer pressure.
Listen, it's great having you on the show. Just to let you know, my internet's playing up. I'm getting a technician to come in and fix it. It was meant to be fixed earlier this week, but it's not great. But Riverside, being the platform that it is, it uploads on your computer and my computer, and the final image will be wonderful. But if I freeze or if I'm pixelated, apologies, brother. It's just, it's what it is.
Just let it roll. Yeah, for sure. We'll just let it roll.
Why do you look like a rock star?
I'm doing a bohemian thing this summer, I guess. I'm in the middle of writing my next book, so I'm actually out in a cabin in the woods, looking out a window right now at Zion National Park. It's pretty blessed.
I know where Zion National Park is. I've been there a long time ago with my dad and my brother and sister. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. You know it, baby.
Bryce.
It's incredible.
Then you got Bryce Canyon, and Utah is like just gorgeous, lovely.
Yeah, you got that whole. They call it the Grand Staircase.
Yeah.
It's Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce. It's gorgeous. It's a magical place.
Yeah, we've done all of those. It was lovely. And I remember talking to you the other day, and like, you need to take a month off. If I'm going to do this book of mine, I need to take a month off. I think I'm going to take November off. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take November off. That's what I need to do.
It works, man. You know, like I don't know what to say to people, but it's just good. You know, this is the second year I've done it, and it's been super effective. You know, like I was able to write a whole book in about 2 weeks last year.
Wow.
And then still have time off. It was just that one just came out. This one, I'm actually working on a chapter right now about how we've gotten to where we are today, you know, and tying in eugenicism and bioweapons and trying to show people the connection with Operation Paperclip and how this is the maturation of the Nazi agenda. And, you know, and it's like, how do you keep something that's this sprawling into this? Right.
Good luck. Are you going to do an audio book? Are you going to do the audio?
Yeah, our process, I write, and then I send it to my team, and my team kind of rips it up and everything and makes sure that it's worded right. Then we go to layout. Once we got layout, then we go to then we go straight into production on the book, the paper and the ebook. And while those are going out, those come out first, and then I go into the studio and record. And then we have an audiobook.
Dude, you've got a voice for recording, man. It's got that deep.
That's what they keep saying.
Sexiness. It's like very profound, gravelly, just distinctive. I wish I had a voice like that. Definitely.
Well, I am grateful. Thank you for the compliment. I feel like it's scratchy sometimes, and a little bit like I notice. I made the mistake of going into the studio to record, like I think 2 or 3 days in a row or something like that. And like on the third day, it was like, it's like, okay, we're gonna just throw that away. That's not good, you know.
Definitely. So, dude, where are we going to start? Like, I was thinking about this. There's so many things we could talk about. Like, where do we even begin, brother? Like, what?
Well,
what is going on?
Yeah, it's. I was thinking about that. You know, as well. And I think we just start like it felt good to me for us just to have a conversation about, you know, like bringing people into, how we are, how did we get into this place, in this space where we're doing the work that we're doing, you know what I mean? And then it's like, well, now let's talk about the work we're doing. But just to like have that thing where it's just me and you having a conversation, and that other person gets to be the third person in the room,
Yeah. Well then,
with two dudes hanging out.
well then, tell me, my dude, my rock star dude, with the deep, gravelly, rich voice. Like, what the hell? Why are you doing this thing that gets you very little in return in this physical realm?
um, it's the right thing to do.
Really? Like,
It's
you don't think you didn't want to join Team Satan?
yeah. They hit me up and they asked if I was available, and I said absolutely not. Because of all the stupid rituals and everything you got to go through with them. No, but it's I think for me it became this: if not me, then who? I didn't want to take the opinion that somebody else was going to get this done, that somebody else was going to do the work. And that's not to say that somebody else couldn't. And it's not to say that there aren't literally thousands of us now out in the world, really doing significant level work, right? It was just that this is the fight for all of the marbles. You know what I mean? Like this feels like a final level battle. And I love the idea of being on that battlefield. I love the idea of being on that battlefield as, as one of God's, defenders. I love being among the people who believe in the light and who believe in goodness and love and everything in the world that could be what's possible. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. I mean, how could you not be in this fight? You're going to be involved in this fight whether you like it or not. It's going to engulf you. This is World War III, essentially. It's just a war unlike anything we've ever seen. And since it's going to engulf you, you're forced to make a choice. And that choice is at the core of your soul, who and what you are. Well, we have defined ourselves, you and I, as good people. You see, the thing about good people that we go on is like we make this assumption that everyone's good, and that's not true. That's clearly not true in the world. But we make this assumption that everyone's good. Everyone has the potential to be good, but that doesn't make everyone good. What makes someone good isn't what you think necessarily. It's what you do. And so for me, you will know who someone is by their actions. The actions tell me everything I need to know about someone, right? So what we get to do is express our goodness. And what's so interesting about the word good is the etymology, the history of the word good is directly from God. They just added an O to it, but it means godly, or to work to be godly, right?
Mm.
To be in that blessed state of his presence, of his divine presence. And and I think that's where we come in, is we all chose to be here at this time. We knew that this battle was coming, and we all said, yeah, send me in, coach. Put me in, I'm ready to play, baby, right? And for me, Doc, what it comes down to is, what a tremendous opportunity to get a really good understanding of who you are. And what a great opportunity to help others at the same time. Like, I always wondered during World War II, if I was in Nazi Germany and I knew that the Nazis were doing this to Jewish people and all this, what would I have done? You know what I mean? I've always been fascinated by World War II, the entire biopic, whether you're talking about Saving Private Ryan, whether you're talking about Inglorious Bastards in that fantasy land, everything I could read, everything, I love reading all the stories of just incredible courage. There's a story I don't know if you've heard this one. There's a story of what happened in Midway, where there were three pilots who were searching for the Japanese fleet out in Midway, Yamamoto's fleet. And they couldn't find them. This is, of course, before we have, satellites up in the sky and all these surveillance systems and everything like that. So it's basically on site. And these three pilots that went up got to a point where they were running out of gas, and they had to make a decision to head back to the base and abandon their mission to find this fleet, or to say, you know what, we are going to find this fleet or we are going to die. And all three of them decided that they were going to find this fleet or they were going to die. They realized they were going to have to scuttle their ships, and because there was an impending battle, they probably weren't going to be able to be found. For everything, they get down to this place where there's less than, I think they said 10% of gas left in their tanks. And just at this last moment, they see a rainbow in the sky. And this rainbow is created by the exhaust of water plumes coming up from the Japanese fleet. And so because of the prisms hitting, they were able to see the fleet before the attack and radio in the coordinates of where the fleet was, so that the Allied forces in the Pacific could win that crucial battle. And it was a devastating, it was the battle that sealed the fate of Japan, and really the whole eugenicist ideal of what Japan was advocating for in conjunction with Hitler. It sealed it. That one moment of courage, that one moment of saying, this is bigger than me. I'm going to do what's right in this moment, because everything that we hold dear, freedom, love, all of it depends on it. I'm going to do this. I always wondered what I would do in a moment like that. And I think we've answered that question, all of us, for ourselves. We have that gnosis, that knowledge of, yes, we are good people. We know it deeply in our hearts. Our actions have demonstrated it. And I think that for me is like, these are our moments now. That was their moment, and thank God for people who feel and do that. And my firm expectation is that there will be people in the future that will look back at us and have that same sense of gratitude and hopefully inspiration, that should another moment arise, they can draw courage and inspiration from people like us, like we've drawn courage and inspiration from the people who've come before us, to continue this lineage of love that really is the thread, the fiber that binds the entire universe together. Like, we're part of that, and it's a great honor to be a part of that.
Dude, well, you're very articulate and eloquent, and that was very beautiful. And now I'm gonna throw a big spanner in your works, though. Right? This beautiful cake that you've just constructed, I'm just gonna throw some stuff at it. Like the truth is, there was individual heroism for sure in the Second World War, and I loved everything about the Second World War, and I studied it, and Battle of Stalingrad, and this and that, Battle of the Bulge. But you know what? In the last few years, I've realized it's all been a crock of shit. The whole thing was a crock of shit. It's a banker's war. It was engineered. The Wall Street mob were fueling Nazism and Hitler. The whole thing is like one mass ritualistic culling of humanity. It's just, I don't like, there's so many books out there now. I've got one, I can't remember the author's name. Oh yeah. Hidden Story by Jerry Doherty and Jim McGregor, and it talks about the First World War and all that, Second World War, and it's all a crock of shit. Duke Ferdinand got assassinated and this, and it's all a crock. It's all bankers, globalists, corporate money men. They engineered these wars, and they're still at it. So even though there are individual acts of heroism and good, when I look back at that era now, It's just one massive fabricated lie, one lie after another, Gulf of Tonkin. Like if you start telling me the romantic version of Vietnam, I'd be like, no, that was a crock of shit. That was
Right.
another imperialistic intervention. Like it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I can't, I'm so disgusted by it now. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like imagine you have like this wonderful father figure and you love him, and then you find
Right.
out he was a serial murderer and rapist. You're like, what
Right.
the like, I'm just so disgusted. Like, that was I loved the Second World War. I used to like have my little gun, run around, and now I realize, you know what? We might not even be the good guys. There were no good guys. There were no good guys.
Well, there were
It's
definitely no good guys. And what you're alluding to is absolutely correct.
Do you know there was
When you get
Ford engines in the Nazi Panzers? Like,
Oh
dude,
yes, this is the insanity of it. You start going through the thing that you start tracing the money. What do we all do? We follow the money. The money tells you everything. Like we said, the actions, they tell you everything. And of course, where does it all trace back to? It traces back to Geneva always. Isn't it interesting how all wars begin in a supposedly neutral country? To me, this is the inspiration for the Iron Bank of Bravos in the Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? Like, and
yes.
so I start looking through. I actually did some research on this in this chapter on writing. Let me read a couple of things to you that just kind of blew me away in here. So this comes down to the theology of eugenicism, and that's something I would love to talk with you about today. But check this out. As of today, these are the organizations that are said to be headquartered in Geneva: the United Nations, the World Health Organization, a little known organization underneath them that controls the World Health Organization that most people don't know about, called the World Health Assembly, the World Trade Organization, the Red Cross, Bill Gates' Gavi Vaccine Alliance, the CERN Particle Accelerator, of course, because we do need a black hole in this world, the World Meteorological Organization, coordinating all the global geoengineering, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the International Internet of Things Forum and Lab for the impending connectivity of the human body to the internet, and of course, World Economic Forum, and that's just a small group. These are all hosted in Geneva, right? Well, you start going back through Operation Paperclip, and there's a central figure in Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip is where the United States brought in, expunged, and deleted the war crimes of over 1,600 and likely closer to 5,000 Nazi criminals. Right? They just said, you're not going to Nuremberg. Nuremberg is a sham. It's a farce. It's for show. That's all it was. We're gonna hang. I think it was like 19 people, or no, it was 13 or 14 people, and
Not very many.
committed suicide. Yeah, it was nothing. It was a nothing burger. It was all show. So those people that got killed or sentenced were just they were of no utility from a war standpoint. The United States grabs all of the Nazi scientists, all the ones that were in Auschwitz and in Buchenwald and in Treblinka, brings them all over here to continue their studying. Well, what's very interesting is the central character in this is Alan Dulles. And he had a brother by the name of
Yes.
John Foster Dulles. John Foster Dulles is, of course, eventually becomes the Secretary of State during the Truman administration. And of course, Alan Dulles becomes the long-acting CIA director in the United States, responsible for MK Ultra and the Iranian overthrow and all these other horrible, absolutely horrible things. Well, what gets very interesting is you start looking at what the Nazis were intending to do. You see, the Nazis, Hitler's just a crazy person who failed a coup attempt and is a drunkard at the bottom of a Bavarian tavern unless he has funding. So you got to go follow the money. Well, where did the funding come from? The funding comes through Geneva, comes through Switzerland to be able to fuel the Nazi war machine. Hitler, a ridiculous eugenicist, takes it and runs with it. And what ends up happening is by the end of the war, there is so much technology that has been created that the concern becomes Russia's going to get it, and then therefore the argument that the United States should import all of these war criminals. Of course, this was against what President Roosevelt's wishes, and this was against Truman's wishes, at least with the story that we're told about it. The Dulles brothers go ahead and do this anyway. They violate presidential executive orders to bring these cats in until Truman authorizes it, and then they still illegally import the criminals into the country. Now, you have to understand what the Germans were doing. The Nazis, they expected to win the war, right? So now you got to imagine this. You got to think like a Nazi for a second, which is a horrible thing to ask someone to do. If you win this war, by the time the war is over, the army, the military is going to be decimated, right? But you're now going to be in control of huge swaths of land all throughout the world. How are you going to maintain control over all of these places that hate you, that are going to go into open rebellion the second they get the opportunity? How are you going to do that? Well, this was one of the many things going on in the supposed concentration camps. And by the way, that was never the term used for them by the Nazis or the Allied forces. They were slave labor camps, they were experimentation camps, and they were extermination camps. And their different ones had different rules, and some of them had dual purposes. So what were they doing in the experimentation camps? They were studying mind control. They were studying what did they need to do to be able to control the minds of people when they didn't have the military authority, or I should say prowess, after the war to be able to control the areas they had conquered. What they came up with were two delivery systems on how to do this. The Nazis learned that, number one, in order to mind control someone, they need to be severely malnourished. The second thing that they learned was that they had to deposit aluminum into their system, because the deposition of aluminum into the system short-circuited the central nervous system, making them more susceptible to repeated suggestions, what would become the 24-hour news cycle and now social media. What ends up happening is they settle on two delivery systems, the Nazis did. Vaccination under the guise of being humanitarian, and control of the waterways, so that they could pour whatever they needed to into the water to be able to wipe out huge municipalities. So the Nazis planned on forced vaccination and water treatment facilities. They were going to present themselves to the world that they had conquered as humanitarians. Now, this all, of course, goes the way of the dodo after, Hitler makes a stupid move, a couple of stupid moves, because he was actually on cocaine every day. One of the things his nutritionist was injecting into him was a form of cocaine on a daily basis. So this man's a complete psychopath on top of being born a psychopath. All right? I mean, he's just heffed up on goofballs every single day. So Alan Dulles grabs all these Nazi scientists, brings them in, and says, let's put you in the Department of Energy. Let's put you in the all the branches of the United States military. Let's put you in the CIA. Let's put you in all of these places, NASA, and have you continue on with your work. Of course, behind the scenes, nobody's really going to know about this. Well, it's no accident then, Doc, that by 1948, we get the United States Federal Water Pollution Control Act. And the word control is incredibly important. Wherever you see the word control, that is a hallmark symbol of eugenicism. Birth control, population control, Center for Disease Control. Wherever you see the word control, that is telling you with a big screaming alarm that eugenicists are involved in what's going on. So in 1948, we get the federal United States Federal Water Pollution Control Act. This is the first act that seizes waterways in the United States and creates a budget to build, guess what? water treatment facilities all throughout the country. Okay, so now you start seeing the Nazi agenda being installed in the United States. By 1950, it is now said that we need to fluoridate the water. We need to help protect healthy teeth in children. That's why we need to fluoridate the water. This is the argument to the public. Never mind that the Aluminum Company of America, otherwise known as Alcoa, had performed a study in the 1930s in Arkansas and shared that study with the government, showing conclusively that fluoride in water actually caused teeth mottling, little dimples and holes in teeth. So what they did was they got a guy to basically flip that, a eugenicist, to flip that and say it was healthy with no evidence to support it whatsoever, of course. They made up a bunch of studies and stuff like that. But ends up happening, they start by 1950 fluoridating. Now, that doesn't mean much until you understand this. In aluminum production, the waste product at the time was sodium fluoride. So when you are pouring sodium fluoride into municipality water treatment facilities all around the country, of course you are pouring aluminum in at the same time, which is how you start to deliver low levels of aluminum into the human body to short circuit the nervous system and make people suggestible to whatever you want to say. Well, by 1955, they had successfully scared the entire country in the United States with the polio epidemic. Now, there's of course going to be a debate as to whether that was a released bioweapon or whatever. But by 1955, Salk and Sabine are now introducing the polio vaccine to save us all, right? And so what you see is from 1945 to 1955, a 10-year period, the complete and full installation of the Nazi approach to mind control in the United States. And it just gets worse from there because now you have to fast forward to today. And I know these are terrible conversations, but we need to talk about them. What's going on today? The maturation of that Nazi approach. And that maturation can be seen in our skies every single day, in the chemtrails. You see, the thing that the Nazis were working on as well was how to distribute in the air. They just weren't far enough along in that process. And you can go through the history of World War II and you can see that they were using chemtrails to try and hide, the Air Force for Great Britain and the United States and the Luftwaffe and all that. So they were experimenting with it. They just weren't very far along. And the reason they weren't very far along was because they could not get the size of the aluminum or the metal particulate to the size they needed to be aerosolized. That doesn't come along until the 1990s and the development of quantum dots. So what ends up happening is by the 1990s, they have finally figured out how to get the size of the aluminum particle to where it needs to be. And now it's no accident that when you talk to Dane Wigington, Geoengineering Watch, they do an experiment of flying a couple of planes into chemtrails and then they take them back to an electron microscope to look at them. And what do they find? The largest constituent is aluminum. They go and trace back to the company that is developing this, and they prove that the company developing these aerosolized nanoparticles have in their, it's right on their website, I've seen it, have the ability to, you can buy aluminum quantum dots and aerosolized, nanoparticles made out of aluminum to spray anywhere you want. Well, then you have Mike Adams, Health Ranger, and doing the same thing with Jane Ruby, getting a sample of sky fallout and saying, let's look at that. And what do they find? Aluminum. So then I start testing on myself what's coming out in my sweat on days following chemtrails versus days that there are no chemtrails. And guess what I find coming out in the sweat? High levels of aluminum. And what does that trace us all the way back to? Traces us all the way back to the Nazis, to those horrible camps, by whatever name you want to call them, where they were exterminating millions of people. One of the big, you know what, Doc, one of the big disturbing things about World War II, and you're right, at the end of the day, it's all a sham. One of the big disturbing things about World War II is how the Allied forces referred to the Jewish people that they were supposedly liberating. The Germans referred to them as slaves. They called them worse than dogs. The Allied forces referred to them the same way when you read through all of the correspondence going between Washington and the command in the Allied command in Europe. They all spoke of the Jewish people in these camps as slaves. And you cannot have respect for someone and understand on any level empathetically what they may have been going through if you view them as inferior. And that's what I'm writing about right now, that we as a people have to change the way we look at each other. It's the most fundamental thing that we have to do to liberate ourselves from this extended era of eugenicism.
So can I just say a few things?
Of course.
Just because I like being controversial. There's a lot of people who argue that there weren't that many extermination camps as we are told, and that actually the Germans were using them as a slave labor force. They had no plans on killing them, and you can't question that. And if you do, you get into a whole load of trouble. But you know what? Anything that you can't question, like vaccines, and if you get into trouble, I get worried about, because the truth should be open to interrogation and actually flourishes under interrogation. But nowadays, there are certain no-go topics that if you want to question the mainstream narrative, you get into a whole host of trouble. You're a revisionist, you're a denier, you're this, you're that, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying, right now, I'm sitting on the fence with a lot of the stuff that we've been spoon-fed. I can tell you right now, after the Second World War, millions of Germans, young German soldiers, were put into open fields and left to die. No food, no nothing. No one talks about that. No one talks about the massacre of literally millions of young German men and the German women that were raped, and how we bombed their cities, literally fireballed them. Innocent civilians were killed. We don't talk about that. I mean, what I'm just saying is the narrative is a little bit more complicated. Now, I get the thing about the Germans being eugenicists, 100%, but guess what? They got it from America. You had American eugenicists. You had Charles Davenport. He was one of the biologists and a founding father of the American eugenics movement. He's the guy that founded the Eugenics Record Office in 1910. Then you had Harry Laughlin. He was the superintendent of the Eugenics Record Office. He advocated for compulsory sterilization, my friend. And he's the one that influenced Nazi policies. And then you had Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. She's an American. And although she said, I'm not for coercive sterilization, but a bit of sterilization is quite a good thing. And she collaborated with the whole racial hygiene ideas. Madison Grant is another one, author of Passing of the Great Race. Her racial theories also influenced Nazi ideology. What I'm trying to say is over 60,000 forced sterilizations took place in the States. And eugenics was actually even embedded in your legislation. You had the U.S. Immigration Policy Act. The Immigration Act of 1924 had eugenics in it. And so American scientists and ideologues heavily influenced your Nazi eugenics, by the way. All right. And it was just later on, it was repackaged as population control and genetic counseling, and now it's for the climate change, we need less people and blah blah blah,
right.
and there's scarcity. Right. So America is neck deep in this shit, okay? And the Nazis came afterwards, and if you look, the Bushies were helping, the Nazis. the Ford, Morgan Bank, the other New York banks. What the hell, right? And then you got the British eugenicists like Julian Huxley. I think he's the brother of Aldous Huxley. He ended up being the first director general of UNESCO. Like, what the hell's he got to do with that? And he was a leading British eugenicist, and he believed in evolutionary humanism or whatever that is. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you know, we've always got this idea in the West that, you know what, we're the best, we're the good guys. Those bad Muslims, those bad commies, those bad Nazis, those bad Japanese people. Like, you know, I hate to say this, but we are guilty of a lot of shit. And, you know, we create the boogeymen. We fund them. Like, take, for example, we created Saddam Hussein. Like, we literally did.
Yes.
Like, we pumped him up. We gave him the arms and weapons. Go fight against Iran now. We created the Ayatollah. People don't realize this. We created the Ayatollah to counter,
Alan Dulles.
communism. Alan Dulles.
That's Alan Dulles.
Right. We supported Gaddafi at his time. Like, we support them, then we cut them off, and then we make them the boogeyman. So, and it's a cycle. So if it's happening in the contemporary stage, so for example, Al Qaeda, CIA, the database, we made them.
Yes.
Then we cut them off.
Yes.
ISIS, Jelani, Al Nusra Front. You know, we welcomed Jelani into Syria, Damascus, and then we're still bombing him, right? So it's like, you know, this is a playbook. We promote the people that are our yes men, our vassal, you know, leaders. Then after a while, we cut them off. We make them the bad guys, and then we fund the opposition and get them to topple over. And it's like a perpetual cycle, rinse and repeat. And if it's happening in the last 50 years, why not Hitler? Why not anyone else before that? Like, we created communism as well in the West. The Western bankers created Bolshevism. Just look it up. You know, and it's just, I'm just saying, like, dude, I hate to burst your bubble. Maybe you know all this, but it's not that simple. Like,
I'm not suggesting it's that simple, Doc. What I'm saying is we're having a really awesome conversation about what it is, and like you said, we can get into the individual acts of heroism, but then what you're getting into philosophically is, why are they even necessary, which is the real fundamental question. And this is where I think we have to become educators. We have to become teachers to people. It's like, how did we get to this place to see the truth of what we've seen? Well, it comes from what you said. We ask questions. And where is the most fruitful place to ask questions? In the areas that you're not supposed to ask questions. So let me take you into something that is going to be very unpopular for me right now, but let's just get it going. I don't care, right? What's a Semite?
I know. Yeah, I know. Anyone who speaks the Semitic languages, Arabs, Hebrews, Assyrians, all that kind of stuff. It's a massive swathe of people. And many people would argue that Ashkenazi people from Eastern Europe aren't even Semite. So you're calling people you're being accused of anti-Semitic for people who aren't even Semitic. But that would fit with the clown world that we live in, where everything is inverted.
Right. Now, how do we use the term anti-Semite today? Do we use it to say you're anti-Arab, anti-Armenian, anti-Assyrian, or is it just anti-Jewish?
Anti-Eastern European people, yeah. Like, look up Netanyahu, he's Polish, and they changed their name to, you know, Hebrew-sounding name. I think he's like Mikolovsky or something like that. I'm not sure.
Right. So now, guess where the term Semite comes from?
I haven't gone that far back. Tell me.
From a German historian who, of course, hated the influx of these Eastern European people that were considered to be unclean and therefore carriers of disease. And the term comes from from 17, I think it's 1741 or 1781 is the first time that it's used. But it's used specifically to describe unclean people. So what we're talking about is really the birth of eugenicism, even though eugenicism dates all the way back to Babylon. Let's not kid ourselves. But the actual coining of the term eugenicism doesn't occur until 1883. It doesn't get formally created until 1880, and what eugenicism means is good stock, a birth of good stock, is what it translates to, right? Well, what you have is a bunch of psychopath lunatics who think that it's their game to be able to fund both sides of a conflict. They don't care who wins because they funded both sides. Both sides are one. So whoever emerges from the conflict, it doesn't matter. It's going to help them move their extermination agenda and their creation of control mechanism agenda forward. It doesn't matter to them, right? And that's where, as a teacher, I say, okay, we have to get into the energy of words and where words come in, because they tell us so much about our history. And we have to be very cognizant of the words that we use, because a lot of the words that we use are words of eugenicists, which are words of hate. And Semite and anti-Semite is a word of hate, which is why I refuse to use it. And anybody who wants to call me a anti-Semite or whatever, I feel your judgment, and I abjectly, without condition, reject your judgment on me. I will not entertain it for even a second, because you do not know the history of this word, and you do not know that it was created by eugenicists to create what they always create, which is polarity. One side over here opposed to one side over here, because they understand that when you have polarity, polarity ultimately becomes conflict.
Divide and
this
rule.
is why divide and conquer, a one-page playbook, that's all they've ever needed, because we keep falling for the same thing. And here's where we fall for it the most, Doc. Here's where we fall for it the most. When we say the terms Jews and Christians and Muslims and Asians and blacks and whites and immigrants, and we consistently have been programmed to omit the word people in how we describe each other. And why is that important? Because people specifically means family. It means those that you associate as a part of your clan or tribe. That's what that word means. And our oppressors, our would-be oppressors, the eugenicists, know this, which is why in their control of the media, you never see that word added to the description of groups. Because if you add that word to the description of groups, people start seeing themselves as the same. And when you see yourself as the same, it is very difficult to hate someone that you see as the same. It is very difficult to have the inclination to commit horrific atrocities against someone that you see as the same. And they know this, and this is the fundamental root of roots. And what we have to do as teachers is teach people how to identify eugenicists, the word control, the absence of the word people, the use of the word Semite in any capacity. We have to teach them how to see their languaging and rise above their languaging, because that's the magic in words. That we, with our simple languaging, can overcome their great evil that they want us to consistently buy into, to surrender our freedoms for their conveniences, which are nothing more than us stepping into our own slavery, us paying now to step into our own slavery, which I abjectly reject. So my teaching is really simple for everybody listening to this. Never use the word hate in any capacity. It means extreme ill intent, extreme ill will. It's actually worse than the word evil, which means ill intent. To say, without question, I am going to delete that word. That is a word of the eugenicists. I am going to delete it. And I'm also going to delete any notion of me being a victim of my own life or circumstance. No, I'm free. I decide what's going on. I decide and make my choices for how things are going to be. And one of the choices that I make is to see us as the same. One of the choices I make is to see each other for where we are the same, and to not be put off by a cultural or a physical difference of appearance, which is absurd. It's absolutely preposterous that we have bought into the incredible eugenic lie of race and what that is. Because all of that does is it separates us. And for us as teachers, it becomes, I'm going to lead by example. And when I say Jewish, there will be people or person after it because we're same. When I say black, there's going to be people or person after it because we're same. When I say Muslim, there's going to be people or person after it because we are the same. And when we start to identify ourselves through our languaging as the same, the playbook of divide and conquer goes bye-bye. And all the bullshit and all the money that they can throw towards creating polarity is waste. That's how we win.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. That's why one of the big things I've been saying is, listen, always choose Team Humanity. Always choose Team Humanity.
Same, right? That makes us the same.
Always choose Team Humanity. And but the problem is human beings are flawed in so many ways. They want to pick their own tribe. It might be the tribe that is, their profession. Doctors will just not say anything else bad about other doctors. The police force, police guy won't say anything bad about his other police officers. Or, you belong to a particular religious group or ethnic group.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to call that. You think, no. And I keep telling everybody, no, you need to be part of Team Humanity. But I'm not so sure about you. Going back to what you said, we are good people and blah, blah, blah. Dude.
I didn't say that.
I know.
I said we have the potential to be good.
I know. But what I'm trying to say is dude, so many people think they're good and are doing bad things in the belief that they're doing good things. And the biggest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing good people into doing really bad, evil shit in the belief that they're doing good stuff. And that's the hard nut to crack. I did a podcast with this great guy, and he's been really on ball with so many things. And then somehow we talked about Gaza and Israel. And up until that point, he was on board with everything I was saying. He was like, yeah, Team Humanity, love is the answer, love is the answer. And I was like, and he was like, well, I'm a Jew and I'm a Zionist, and I defend Israel. I was like, yeah, but there's a lot of children and women and innocent men being bombed to death. And his response was, well, that's the Arab countries' fault because they're not letting them into their countries. And I'm like, what? You can't even say, yeah, that's wrong. We shouldn't be bombing all these people. He blames the Arab countries for not letting them in. It's like saying, imagine China invaded America and is bombing all the cities and hospitals and schools and, everywhere. And there's humanitarian camps and refugees everywhere. And the Chinese are even bombing those. And there's AI drones coming and robots shooting everybody up. And when you criticize what China's doing, like the Chinese people say, no, it's Canada and Mexico's fault for not letting the Americans in. You're like, what? What? Dude, why is it to a point you're like on Team Humanity and it's all about love and love is the answer, and then you got this massive blind spot. And it's again, the problem is people aren't choosing Team Humanity, and I think people go through trauma and then they base their values on those traumatic experiences they've been through, and they fall for the divide and rule. Anyway, there's a lot of good people, a lot of good doctors who think they're doing the right thing by vaccinating people, and they think I'm dangerous. They think you're dangerous. They think by locking you up and locking me up and depriving us of the ability to provide for our family and make us homeless, that they're actually really good. Because look how good they are, because we're evil Hitlers, And what would you do to Hitler? You'd kill him. So, well, you know what? These are really bad Hitlers. We need to punish them. So in their head, they justify everything because, they think they're good people and they're doing the right thing. And that's the hard nut we need to crack. That's a difficulty.
Well, my heart goes out to you on that one. I can hear it in your voice. I've had that same conversation with people that I've known for decades, that the relationship ended and broke right there in that moment, that they couldn't see that, you know, children being murdered is not good. There's no defense for it. There's no excuse, for it. And, it takes me back to something I think a little bit more existential. I've really gotten into this mantra. It's just, I'm going to love you anyway. I am not going to give in to this hate. I'm not going to give in to this blind spot. And there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to make me hate you. I am going to see you for the beautiful being of light that you are, and that you are ultimately going to realize yourself. It's just that you're not able to realize it in this moment. And that's okay. There were moments, plenty of times, I'm sure, where I didn't realize it, and somebody was really trying to help me and root me on to get there, and they gave me that same grace. And that becomes, I think, for us as teachers, one of our major lessons is that everything doesn't have to be solved in this moment of our own existence. That the challenges and development of the soul, of the spirit, have been going on since time ever first came into existence, and will go on until time no longer exists again. That we're just at a different place in that learning curve. That doesn't make it all right. It doesn't make it easy. But I think it helps us understand that there's a perfection to all of this, even when it doesn't feel good. And it allows us, hopefully, to step into a place of reaffirming our love for one another. Like that is the way. Hate is taught, and it's taught by evil. It's taught by these evil eugenicists. Hate is a learned behavior, which means that love is a learned behavior as well. And so what I do, Doc, is I get in there and say, you know what? I'm not going to realize this in my lifetime. I can accept that. But there will be moments of epiphanies that I will be blessed to see in people, because you've seen it and I've seen it, where the light bulb comes on. You know what I mean? And the lowest hanging fruit is on the topic of vaccination now. How many people have we seen the light bulb come on in the last 5 years, right? On that, where before that conversation sucked. Right. But now it's undeniable. And there is a certain level of reticence still in the people that realize they were wrong. But, if we bring to them judgment and, shame, they're never going to open up. But if we bring to them love and, hey, I'm glad you're here now. Look at now, guess what else, is out here that we have to talk about, or that we can talk about. I think it takes us to this wonderful place as a teacher of the moment that we all crave, which is seeing the light bulb go on in even just one person. And if all the work that we've done helps even one person have that light bulb come on, and the benefits of that light bulb coming on are in, of course, children who don't have to go through horrible things, that we could never know that they wouldn't have to go through horrible things because they just never had to go through it, because somebody learned something that we said, something that we taught, something that we shared. Well, it's all worth it at that point, And I think for us as teachers, it's important for us to focus on what's good about what we're doing. It's not saying we're ignoring or putting on the rose-colored glasses or Pollyannaing things up. It's just saying, where do I choose to focus my attention? Because I have the freedom to do that. Well, I choose to focus my attention on every single person that's willing to step into the light. And I choose to focus on every single person stepping into the light, because I know that that's a hard process, especially at the beginning. And I know that if they are embraced with love and hugs and encouragement, that they are going to want to remain in that light, and that they are ultimately going to get and receive the same calling that we did, which is to go and back out into the darkness and share the light more.
Yeah,
so
100%.
what I'm advocating for is a complete overhaul of our educational system, and starting to teach our children the proper way from the beginning, that we are the same, that we are more alike than we could ever be different, and that there is a beauty in that that allows us to still celebrate the unique potential within each of us, that you don't have to surrender this difference to a control system that wants everything to be the same. You don't have to do that. You can still be free and still be a part of a family. And that's the message that I bring forward.
Quick little interruption, folks. Let me remind you, if you visit my website, docmalik.com, look at the top tab, you'll see I've got a shop. You can buy some merch there, but also under affiliates, you can see some of the products that I'm using at home. And there's Hunter and Gather, and there's a 10% code you can use there. They've got fantastic products. There's a spa and wellness company. Again, you can get 3% discount using Doc Malik. And then there's Sea Greens, seaweed nutrition, rich in biocompatible iodine and micronutrients. Again, use Doc Malik, all capitals, for 10% discount. All the details are on docmalik.com/affiliates. Check them out. I don't get any money until you spend and buy something, but every purchase will help support the show. And these are things that we use in the family. There's, they're good stuff, and check it out. And then the next thing I would say is remember my consultation service, folks. If you've got a pesky condition, you're frustrated with your doctor, you want a second opinion, you feel like you're at a dead end, you got too many questions and too many unanswered, questions, and you don't know how to move forward, pick my brains. That's why I'm here. And so far, I seem to be making a difference. I've got 55-star reviews now, which I'm absolutely delighted about. And the feedback has been amazing. I mean, just the latest one by Gillian. I very much appreciated my consultation with Doc Malik to discuss my 91-year-old mother's health crisis. He talked us through her diagnosis and proposed treatment plan in a way I could understand and answered the many questions we had. It was exactly what I needed to try and get my head around why she's suffering so much and best path forward. Wonderful man, and so pleased to be able to tap into his knowledge and support. Thank you, Gillian, and thank you everyone else who left a review. So folks, yeah, if you want to tap into my knowledge, unfiltered, uncaptured, someone who respects bodily autonomy, understands the sick care system, and also how to be truly healthy, I'm here to help you. Lastly, folks, please don't subscribe to my Substack through the Apple Store, the Apple app. I get literally 50% of whatever you give to me. The rest is all taken by the App Store and Substack. All right, folks, listen, without further ado, back to the show. Thank you so much. Yeah, listen, I'm really glad you talked about eugenics. It's something we haven't really talked about on my podcast before. Just quickly, the last point you just made about everything's the same. It's funny, globalization wants everybody to be the same. Same ideas, same views, politics are the same, high streets are the same, food is the same, culture is the same, TV's the same. But at the same time, they talk about promoting diversity. It's a complete freaking inversion. But anyway, eugenics, I mean, I think people, just in case some people don't know what eugenics really is, because, a lot of people wouldn't know, because it's not something that's talked about in mainstream TV, right, or radio. But eugenics is this idea that some people are genetically superior to others, right, and some are inferior. Now, some extend it and say some races are more superior than others, but it can actually just be on an individual level, even within a race, that some people are genetically superior than others. Then there's biological determinism, so that things like there's traits like intelligence, morality, even poverty and criminal behavior are hardwired into your genes. So, it's inherited. And then there's state intervention as well. So that means that it's the governments who decide who can reproduce and who can't. And you have, right, sterilization, marriage laws. Believe it or not, this all happened in China. One child program and all that kind of stuff. You have segregation and you have abortion. And, we've just had legalization here in the UK last month, where you can now, full-term abortion is now of a healthy fetus, full-term viable baby can be aborted. Okay. And the last one is improvement of the species. So, human breeding should be managed like livestock, like a horse, can breed the best characteristics out of you, create a better race. And the tools that these eugenicists have used, I mean, there's been a number, and there's been forced sterilization, and some people have kind of leaked it out in their little TED Talks and talked about how vaccines will be great at controlling population. And I think in the US, over 60,000, in the US and Canada and Sweden and elsewhere have had forced sterilization. They talked about it in India as well. Marriage restrictions, like a ban on who can be married and who can't. Institutionalism, so you lock up the poor, the disabled, the mentally ill. You stop them from reproducing. Abortion and infanticide is promoted as tools, again, for population control and racial hygiene. And that's full swing. In America, 1 billion innocent babies are being murdered every year. Here in the UK, it's 250,000.
Right.
That's a Holocaust, right? Propaganda,
Yeah.
the films and textbooks and the public campaigns all promote it as being scientific and modern, and there's so many programs. Like there's one with, I can't remember his name now, but like this idea that there, you've got this genetic hardwiring and some people are better and genetically superior. And then you've got immigration controls. And whether it's, stopping certain groups of people, whether it's the Jews, Italians, Eastern Europeans, whatever, the Indians. And then, the genetic research, it talks about, defective bloodlines and how you're defective in your genes. And actually most of the health issues that you see today, it's all because of genes. When actually it's a complete inversion, like genetic issues are probably like 1%. Maximum 5%. Most of it is lifestyle, epigenetics, environmental toxins, deficiencies, trauma, that kind of stuff. But these are the tools of eugenics, and I think it's still thriving. It's just not talked about because they know they've got a bad name, so they've kind of rebranded themselves and repackaged. And I think now it's really about climate change, population control. There's too many people on the planet. We're killing the planet. There's a scarcity of resources. We're running out of things. So now you've got things like a maid, and where you're like helping people along now, the poor and sick, mentally sick, even indebted in Canada. You're able to go and top it yourself, like the movie Soylent Green. They do all this genetic counseling. They do the prenatal screening. Talk of designer babies, transhumanism. I mean, like, eugenics is alive and kicking, isn't it?
It is. It is. We're living in the longest period of eugenics, of unbridled eugenics in world history right now. The United States history books will say that the eugenics era was from 1900, a little bit before 1900, to about 1930. That's absurd. It's preposterous. And like we said, like if you're listening to this and you want to understand, well, how do I identify what's eugenic and what's not? Anywhere that there is the word control, that's a eugenic philosophy. Anywhere that there is fear used to get you into that control system, that is a eugenic philosophy. That COVID was an entire eugenic operation, a global operation. This climate change is nonsense. It's an entire global operation of eugenicism to create the fear that we could kill the planet. We certainly can wipe out humanity, but do you really think something that has existed before humanity is not going to exist after humanity? So you have to understand and see Mother Earth as her own intelligent being. She is her own thing.
So,
right?
So, dude, just quick interruption. You know how I said good people have been convinced into doing bad things? Do you know the number of people I hear, young people, saying, "We're not going to have kids"? Like, there's so many kids, and there's so many people on the planet already. Like, we're doing our bit to save the planet by not having kids. Like, that is the complete inversion of truth and reality and all that is good. Like the whole raison d'etre is to procreate, and and if you believe in God, the earth is bountiful, and the more human beings there are, the better. If we're made in the image of God, like the more of us, the better. But you've now got young people by the dozen who are like, oh no, there's so many people on the planet and the climate change. We're not having kids. So these are good people. They actually think they're doing the right thing, but they've been tricked by the devil into doing the complete opposite.
Right.
It's just everywhere, man. But anyway, if you can expand on that and COVID, if you can talk about COVID and what part you played. Were you not part of the Dirty Dozen?
I was the 13th. I was the Baker's Dozen.
Baker's Dozen. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I knew you were thereabouts.
Yeah, I've been on. The school, the Energetic Health Institute, has made that list of from that organization in the UK that that spawned the whole Dirty Dozen. I forget their name off the top of my head, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're on. They have a map of all the organizations that need to be taken out. My school, the Energetic Health Institute, is on the map. But yeah, eh, what you're alluding to with the children and what they're saying, right, is the exact opposite of how, I don't know how you were raised, but how I was raised in the States. I was raised in the 80s when it was, get some, like that was the modus operandi was, sexuality was very, very respected. It was, it was very free. It was okay, to want to, you know, it was okay to want to procreate. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, that's not only your duty, it's kind of fun too. You might as well
Dude,
try it out, right?
you can use the word sex. It's fine. You can say that. So you were getting laid. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And what I have to say is that I think for a lot of these kids, yeah, they are brainwashed. We come back to Operation Paperclip. We come back to the Nazi agenda once again, right? Where we're saying, well, what's going on with these kids? Number one, they are malnourished. We can all agree upon that. Number two, they have aluminum deposition in their bodies from the shots, from the damn shots, and from the skies, and from the water, and all these sources. Easy to prove. And number three, they are now that makes them susceptible to whatever you want to teach them. They're going to accept it. And so what's being taught in the schools? Climate change, duty to save the planet, all this bullshit, right? If you look at the climate accords, they're going to say that they have to get to net zero carbon emissions in order for things to be all right. But they never define what net zero means. And when you read through their literature, what they are saying is that essentially net zero means zero carbon. Well, the only way that can happen is the complete and utter destruction of all life on the planet, because we are all carbon-based life forms and we are emitting carbon. So it's preposterous on its face. It's eugenics. It's here. Let's create the fear so that we can program you to think a certain way, and then you will do what we want you to do, because we've learned through the Nazis and the experimentation in those camps, we've learned what has to happen to create the suggestibility so we can control your mind. This is what it's all been about. How do we get a free-spirited human being to do what we want them to do? Well, we got to make sure they're malnourished. That's why they're going to tell you that your eggs are no good for you, and cholesterol is bad, and you need to take statins, because what does that do? That knocks out your reproductive hormones. That's going to knock out the production of testosterone and estrogen and progesterone and even cortisol for energy. And a body that doesn't have the building blocks for procreation, for sex, is going to be a body that doesn't want to do it. Right? Because it's not there. That's why they've taken away tobacco. Guess what's one of the things that nicotine does? It stimulates sexual reproductive desire. That's why, they're like, let's ban that all around the world. Then they said, well, let's go a step further. Let's take out red light at night. What does red light at night do? You ready to go there, Doc? You ready to have some fun? Check this out.
Yeah, do it. Tell me about red light at night.
Red light stimulates a few things in the body. It stimulates cytochrome C in the mitochondria to produce energy. It's going to make you feel more vibrant. But it has an incredible effect upon the autonomic nervous system. What red light does to the autonomic nervous system is it activates the parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system. Okay? Now, for those of you who don't know, we go to medical school, Doc. I know they taught you it this way too, right? What's procreation for a man? Point and shoot, right? That you have to get an erection, a man has to have the parasympathetic nervous system stimulated. And then at the moment of ejaculation, at the moment of orgasm, the sympathetics will kick on and out squirts the spark of life, right? That's how it all works, right? Point and shoot. Well, when we're going through time and we're using fire, campfires, candles, and things like that, guess what wavelength of light is emitted at night. Red light. It's a increasing natural curve that we see with it. I've been testing with my spectrometer light all over the place, right? Guess what Thomas Edison figures out with, because he gets vilified, of course, and Tesla gets hailed, even though Tesla was the developer of alternating current, okay, which is being used to kill us right now. Edison develops the incandescent bulb. Well, guess what the incandescent bulb does? It mimics fire. It mimics candlelight in the spectra of color that it sends out. So for all the time that we've had electricity and using incandescent bulbs at night, we're getting saturated with red light and no blue light. Blue light stimulates our sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. Okay? So all throughout humanity at night, we get exposed to red light, stimulates our parasympathetics, and what happens when we go lay down to somebody next to somebody very special? Our
Party
parasympathetics
time.
are stimulated. It's time to get it on. It's easy to get an erection. I don't need any Cialis or anything like that to get a stiff one, right? It's the red light that stimulated it. Okay, now they said the incandescents are bad. We have to save the planet. We have to move to LEDs. And so now what's everybody putting in their homes because it supposedly saves money? I've never seen that savings on my bill. What is in everybody's home? What's coming off our computers? What's coming off of our phones at night while our TVs, while we're supposed to be getting red light? What are we getting? We're getting LEDs. And what LEDs do in their spectral pattern is they spike blue light and there's no red light. It's a consistent pattern. I've been testing this for months all over the country. I've been buying LEDs and incandescents and everything and testing this over and over. It's a consistent pattern. So at night, here's what the eugenicists have done. Eggs are bad. Bye-bye cholesterol, right? We'll put you on a statin drug even when you don't need it. Cholesterol levels hit the floor, and now the body can't produce the reproductive hormones. So the desire to procreate goes down. Then they outlaw nicotine, which of course disables a lot of their bioweapons. Dr. Brian Artis, his great work, my brother, who's done so much incredible work on this topic, right?
Yeah.
That's now gone. But what does nicotine do as well? Nicotine stimulates the production of reproductive hormones. It makes you want to do it. So now that's gone. Then they go one step further and they say, well, red light stimulates you wanting to do it too. Let's put you under constant blue light at night instead of red light. And now what they've effectively done is wiped out the ability and desire to procreate. That's why so many men are needing things like Cialis, things like Viagra to get it up.
I definitely don't need it. I definitely don't need it.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. And here's my child to prove it.
3.
He's 3. It's like I'm shooting live ammo, baby. That's what I'm doing. But you see what I'm saying in terms of you have to give the eugenicists their due. They've put in their homework. It's evil beyond any appreciable recognition, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And that's what you're alluding to when you say that, look, it's alive and kicking, eugenicism all over the world. Yes, it's alive and kicking because we keep missing these little things. We keep trading convenience. They tell us you're going to save money. We fall for it. They tell us you're saving the planet. I want to feel virtuous. I fall for it. Here's a big one for you, Doc. You ready for this?
Yeah, fire away.
Every single person who identifies as a progressive is a eugenicist.
Yeah, I buy that.
You talked about their branding, right? Mm-hmm. Eugenicists in the early 1900s figured out that nobody liked what they were saying. So they rebranded themselves and they called it the doctrine of progress. This is where all these books and the authors that you alluded to that Hitler just couldn't read and get enough of, that he actually imports some of these eugenicists into it, from the United States into Nazi Germany to learn from them. How did you get to make all this legal? What did you have to do to push through and all this stuff? Well, it's not an accident that many of those folks come from California, by the way. That was the hotbed for eugenicism in the early 1900s in the United States. But what happens is that when you start looking around, you see that, okay, it's not just a doctrine, it's an actual practice. And we have to be very careful because they have an incredible influence over law. And that's what you're alluding to. Abortion, Planned Parenthood, abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. Are you kidding me? That's obviously that's obviously unholy. I mean, you're talking about giving a woman the right and the belief that she can kill a child, and because she kills a child while it's in her body is okay, but if she were to take that child after birth and choke it to death, she would be a murderer. That's absurd. It's insane on its face. But like you keep saying so well, it's inversion after inversion after inversion. And if you can identify where the inversions are, the insanity, the psychopathic thought and tendency, you can get it. I just wrote about this 2 days ago. The number one cause of death in the United States and globally, I would suspect in most major countries, are doctors. And people say, well, that's not true. They're the third leading cause of death, according to the Johns Hopkins University study that was in 2016. I'm like, no, stop. That's only looking at medical error. That's only looking at they overprescribed or they botched a surgery. And that's 250 to 400,000 people annually, and they still get paid in all those instances. You have to add in abortion. You have to add in abortion as a cause of death, that the doctor is going in and the white coat is going in and killing a child. It's taking a life. How do I know it's life? The heart is beating. If it's after day 19, the heart is beating. That by definition means that entity, that grouping of cells, I don't care what you call it, is alive. And when you put that together, and now with the underreporting on vaccine-related deaths, and with now assisted suicide, and you start putting all those numbers together, what you have is the white coat, the allopathic white coat who participates in this, is the number one cause of death in the entire world. And that syncs up with the cult that they are from. This is where a lot of people don't know this either, and that's by design. Doctors, white coats, allopaths, I shouldn't say doctors, allopaths, white coats, the people that are so proud of their stupid little white coat, these are members of a cult. The white coat is the symbol of being in that cult. It's called the cult of Asclepius. Everywhere you see a stick and a snake, that is a single snake, is a symbol for the cult of Asclepius. Those supposed doctors, they're not doctors, they don't even call themselves that anymore. They call themselves providers, which means father, by the way, is that they trace their lineage back to ancient Greece and the cult of Apollo, which morphs into the cult of Asclepius, which Hippocrates was a member of and later denounced and left the cult of Asclepius because he realized that what he was trained to do was to do harm. That's where Hippocrates comes up with the famous phrase that starts this new age of medicine throughout the world. First, do no harm. You see, this is where all of this stuff comes back to people like you're saying, Doc, not realizing what they're doing. They think they're doing good, but they haven't done their homework. They haven't been educated, and they haven't taken the opportunity to educate themselves, to ask those hard questions of, well, why do I wear this white coat? Well, why is there a stick and a snake? Why is there a snake on a symbol of health? Why isn't it an apple? Why isn't it something else? Why wasn't I taught nutrition in medical school? You know, Why is it that the average, according to the National Academy of Sciences in the United States, 2014, the average length of time that a doctor in allopathic medical training gets nutrition is 19.6 hours. That is equivalent of a weekend workshop. A weekend workshop over 6 years of education, a weekend workshop on nutrition. They are not
Dude,
qualified to talk about nutrition.
dude, we don't even get an hour. I just
That's
had
what
a
I'm
doc.
saying.
I just had a Dr. Sam White on my podcast. He's another doctor, yet another one. When I said, "Did you get a lecture on vaccine science, history, research?" Nope. Here's the schedule. This is what we do. This is when we give it. That's it. That's all we're taught.
That's it.
That's all we're taught.
That's it.
And it is a cult. It is a cult. But they definitely practice first do no harm, my friend. They practice first do no harm to my medical license and registration. First do no harm to my first do no
To my
harm.
wallet.
First do no harm to my honestly, my wallet, my career, my reputation, my pension, my mortgage, my holidays, my kids' private schooling, my mistress.
Yep.
And then first do no harm to, the patient, as long as I'm following the guidelines and protocols.
Right. And then they get to say the same thing that all the Germans and the Nazi soldiers said, I was just doing my job.
Yeah, 100%.
When what you did killed somebody, I was just doing my job. We've all had that experience. I mean, I've had family members killed right in front of me. I was on the phone when my cousin was murdered by a doctor with her daughter screaming in the emergency room because the doctor wouldn't simply listen to my recommendations. Simply listen to and I was even recommending that they use something like budesonide, which is crazy for me, a natural doc, to be doing. But I'm like, look, you're in an emergency situation. Use budesonide. You open up her airways. Well, I don't think that's going to work. A few minutes later, screaming, and she's dead. And I'm like, dude. You go through these experiences. I watched them kill my mother. You go through these experiences, and you just go, okay. It's usually tragedy that is the inspiration, sadly, for people starting to ask some questions, right? Somebody you loved, something didn't go right, it doesn't feel right. Let me start looking around. Well, you start looking around and you find that it is this incredibly deep rabbit hole of evil that's been going on and really orchestrating the story of humanity from the very beginning. And this is where we come in and go, we're up, there's of course more for us to learn, but we're awake. Here's what I've learned. And my hope is that what I've done is not just shared information, and I don't want you to necessarily take my word for it. I want you to go and validate what I've said. You know what I mean? Go do your own research. Figure out, am I telling you the truth or not? But what I hope we're doing is inspiring people to do the most important thing a teacher can do. And that is to inspire people to ask questions.
100%.
And,
have you heard
done
of
that? We've done our job.
Do you know what iatrogenic harm is, don't you?
Yes.
So it's not when they've made a mistake. It's in the act of doing the right thing according to their mainstream medicine allopathic system, they still harm people and injure them. So it's not that they did anything wrong or negligent. They did what they were meant to do, and that still harmed. And that's massive. Iatrogenic harm is huge, by the way.
Well,
people don't realize.
Right on, Doc. You're right on, and that's where you look at the pharmacopoeia, right? And you go and you look at the side effect profile, and you look at the terminal elimination half-life of these medications, and these are poisons in almost every instance, right? And it's like, well, I just want to give a person enough of a poison to not kill them, but to end the malady that they're encountering. And
No.
have to go back.
Not to end the malady, suppress their symptoms. That's all it is.
Well, that's where we go back to the definition of what allopathic medicine is. And allopathic medicine, defined by Tabor's dictionary in the early 1900s, forgive me, is the attempt to cure by replacing one morbid condition with another morbid condition. Now, that didn't sell very well to people, shockingly. Nobody wanted to take on a morbid condition, right? So they did what eugenicists do. They rebranded. And what they rebranded was side effects. That's where the word side effects comes from. And then, of course, from there, adverse events. And then they attempted to turn it into alternative events to try and make it sound like it's something that happens in natural medicine too, when it doesn't. But, you know.
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't know that, Henry. That's nice. That's good information to have. Wow.
Bro, Adam, you are gonna love, dude. I'm gonna tell you, just it's so fast. Just go into the etymology of these words, bro. I mean, it takes you right back to the core of where all this crap starts from.
So who did the side effect rebranding? What was it called? The morbid what? Who did that?
So if you go to Tabor's medical dictionary in the early 1900s, and all the medical dictionaries in the early 1900s have this. You got to go to those dictionaries and look up the definition of allopathic medicine: the attempt to cure by replacing one morbid condition for another morbid condition. This is why they were said. This is why in the States the allopaths in the late 1800s, early 1900s were called quacks. They were called quacks because they used quacksalber. They used, which is otherwise another name for mercury. So the Americans knew, stay away from those quacks, stay away from the allopaths who are using leeches and trying to cut on you and are using quacksalber. They called them quacks. And they called them quacks because they were attempting to replace one morbid condition for another morbid condition. So the AMA, after the Flexner Report in 1910, you get a wipeout of all of the natural medicine schools. You know, there's only a few that were able to withstand for a few decades after, but you get an almost instant wipeout of all the schools.
Genocide.
And when you get the instant, you total genocide, totally. And when you get that, they get wiped out, and now what you're left with is just the allopathic schools. Well, the allopathic schools said, well, we got to rebrand because we've got to re-earn the trust of the folks that don't trust us. How do you do that? You co-opt the words. So they took the word quack and they started applying it to natural doctors because that was the word being used anyway. So now people like me get called quacks, but they associate it with being a duck, meaning you're just basically you're not a real doctor kind of nonsense, right? And
So
so
it's a complete inversion. It's a complete inversion. So the people who promote the petrochemical poisons, the side effects, things that never ever cure you, the pill for every ill, the experimental surgery, the experimental shots, that's apparently scientific. And if you promote things that have been done for centuries, you know, herbal medicine or homeopathy or, you know, good exercise, good nutrition, food is medicine, and that makes you a quack. Isn't it wonderful?
Fasting, maybe just leaving the body alone and letting it figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. Now you're a quack because the public is already using the term anyway. And we're going to get rid of morbid condition because we were being too honest. And now we're going to call it a side effect. And now what we're going to teach in the medical schools is that every medicine has a side effect. And then we're going to vilify something like cannabis because cannabis has an incredible ability to cure cancer. And that's the exact place that we want to plant our flag on and develop this entire cancer industry, which they've done. You know, and you start going through the annals of history, which you do a beautiful job of, by the way. You start going through the annals of history and you start going, wow, all by design, right?
Design.
And this is why I teach my students, don't you ever come and talk to me about coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. There's opportunism, there's agenda and plans, but there's no such thing as coincidence when we're talking about the scale and magnitude of what we are embroiled in right now. It's all by design, and it takes us again back to Geneva and the side and the folks that were there that have the money funding both sides because they don't care who wins. It doesn't matter. It's a game. It's a game that's going to always keep moving forward in the direction they want it to until, and this is what we have to get out, until we become aware of the game and start to become conscious with how we use the magic within the words that we have. It's not a little thing. I know it sounds like it's absurd. I know it sounds like it's Pollyanna and airy-fairy and all that other stuff. But the words we use are powerful. It's why it's called spelling, to create a word. Okay? You know what I'm saying, Doc?
I know what you're saying. So tell me, you've mentioned this a few times, you've alluded to it. Dude, what is the game? Where are we heading?
Well, right now we're heading into an advanced weaponry that's very dangerous, quite frankly. We're heading into the era of self-amplifying mRNA. This is something that I've been talking out a lot about. I've been very upset with our Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I've been very open about that. And I've been telling everybody this too. If he's playing the game beautifully and he's on our side still, I will apologize. And I will, you know what I mean? Like I will down the road, if it comes out where he did everything right and he took out these shots and everything, I will do cartwheels, apologize, and be like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like but what I see right now
Yeah.
sucks. On April 10th of this year, the first major act of Secretary Kennedy, in accordance with Makary, who the head of the FDA, who actually wrote the paper at Johns Hopkins University showing that there were 250,000 deaths annually for due to medical error. That paper that made it all around the world somehow from Johns Hopkins University, that's from Makary. He wrote that paper. Okay, that was to build his profile up. A paper like that does not get published at Johns Hopkins University, and certainly does not get pushed out throughout the world unless it is to build a person's profile.
Credibility.
That's all it is, right? This is how you infiltrate. You've got to establish trust in order to infiltrate. And so that's how they established that trust with him right there. So you got RFK Jr., you got Makary, and you got somebody I like and who I just think is in over his head, Jay Bhattacharya. But you got them all in these positions, the HHS, the FDA, and the NIH. NIH is our clinical trials division in the United States. What happens on April 10th because we were told, a lot of us behind the scenes were getting pretty heated, like, hey, when are you going to go after these shots? Like day one, too many people are dying. We know all the Pfizer documentation was fraudulent. We know all the Moderna documentation was fraudulent. This has been widely reported and proven by Naomi Wolf's team. It was beautiful work that her team did. And my team as well. We've all proven this stuff, But when are you going to do it? We were told specifically, Doc, sit tight. We've got to get our guys in place. Now, I went and looked up the law and the legal authority of the Health and Human Services Secretary, and I showed everybody that's not true. You don't need to have the FDA person be somebody that you like. You don't need to have the NIH person be somebody you like. You don't need to have the CDC person be somebody you like, because they all fall under the jurisdiction of the HHS secretary. Now, it helps, but it's not essential. But they said, sit tight and wait. I said, okay. So then RFK Jr. Hits me up about, I need some help with the measles thing that's breaking out in Texas. I was doing a lot of work on that. And, I found some major flaws in what Texas was doing. The Texas Department of Health was administering the MMR vaccine to children who had an active infection. And if you go and read the insert published by the vaccine companies, they tell you absolutely do not do that. That could be a fatal error, a fatal mistake, right? But this is something that the Department of Health in Texas was doing and advocating for on their website. So I was calling the Department of Health in Texas and trying to get people on the phone and see, like, hey, what's going on in here? How many are there? They weren't updating their numbers. They weren't saying whether they had proven via testing whether the child had measles. It was basically COVID all over again. It was the same kind of playbook happening at the beginning.
So, quick clarification. Sorry, I should use my little raise my hand thing. There you go.
No. Just jump in, bro.
It's your show. So, were you in? So you were in direct contact with Bobby Kennedy?
No. This is the thing, and there's a story behind that. Let me share with you this story.
Okay.
In 2020, let me give everybody a little background on this. In 2020, you've heard that the death certificates and the death counts in the United States were fraudulent, right?
Yeah.
You've heard
John
that the case
Bidwell.
counts were fraudulent.
John
Right.
Baudouin's done good work on that.
Right. That starts with my team. John was on my team later, but my team before John shows up actually broke all this. We actually did the first peer-reviewed paper on this in October of 2020. Right. I'm the guy that proved that this was all fraudulent and also highly illegal how they went about doing it
Wow.
with COVID alert number 2 on the 24th. You see, what my team was doing early on in 2020 in March and in April was that I was tracking the data all around the world to start developing the curve for how long it was going to take to get to the peak of infectious and then have the natural die-off, right? So we got into the Italian Ministry of Health's data. That was the only country that was really releasing it. But the good news was they were about 2 weeks ahead of the United States in terms of the infective spread. So we saw a curve being built in Italy that reached a peak at about 20, 21 days. And then by day 40 was gone. It was out. We got the data from South Korea and modeled it, and it did the same thing. It rose, peaked at about day 20, and then dropped by about day 40. So I started modeling the United States data from all the health departments, state health departments, and the CDC that were reporting in. And not everybody was reporting in, but it was still enough data. And what we saw was the same rise to about day 20, 21, and then we started seeing a drop off for a few days until about April 16th, I think it was. It might have been April 14th. We started seeing a drop off. So it looked like this was just going to peter itself out after about 40 days and we're done. You know, everybody freaked out over nothing, right? But instead, what happened in the United States, that only happened in the United States, is a secondary curve started to rise for infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, but especially, for infections and hospitalizations, but not deaths. And so I have to be able to explain that in my former life, I was a data analyst. I have to be able to explain what's happening. So we went into how they were collecting the data, what rules and things like that. And that's when it all exploded and we realized, oh my God, the CDC had sent subject matter experts to a non-governmental organization called the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists. Now that organization is heavily funded by Bill Gates, who was funding the Imperial College of London and their projections and the IHME at Washington University. All the data that was coming out were projections, all funded by Bill Gates. The actual data was showing that it wasn't going to be that significant, so they needed more cases. And what the document that the CSTE produced that the CDC ultimately adopted illegally was this, that a single cough could be indicative of COVID and counted as a COVID case. That's absurd on its face. Any doctor will tell you that a single cough cannot be indicative of a diagnosis, right? It's just it's a single data point. And now you have COVID. And now we can write that down and record it, right? But it got worse, Doc. What they did, they had a section 7B in this document that said, how do we make sure that we don't count the same person multiple times when they go in for repeat testing? Because if you remember, you could not go to work until you had a negative test.
Exactly.
So people were going in and going from these drive-through centers in the United States. They were going from drive-through center to drive-through center to try and get a negative test so that they could go back to work. So now most people were getting 7, 8, 9, 10. I've had people getting as many as 20 tests. They weren't sick. They had no symptoms. This is the whole BS of asymptomatic transmission that was disproven by a 10 million person China study, right, that I cited in one of my peer-reviewed papers. Well, what happens is now what the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists say, what the CDC adopts on April 16th is a simple statement that says, how do we make sure we don't count the same person multiple times? Specifically in the document, it says, not applicable until more virologic data is available. Now, I'm a data person. That's preposterous. All you have to do is get the person's driver's license and name, phone number, And then you could associate every time they go to a different testing center to that person and only count that as one case. 20 positives would only count as one. They specifically said, do not even worry about that. And what happened as a result is every single time that person went to a new place to get tested positive, that became a new case. That's fraud. So we were all over this in 2020 by mid-April. We knew what was going on. We got in touch with the Children's Health Defense because at the time I thought they were the big wigs and I thought they would want to know about this. I started doing some writing for them on their site, showing like all this research that we're pulling together and everything like that. And we're sending out a whole bunch of stuff. And then finally I said, listen, we went into the Federal Register in the United States and we found that the CDC didn't report this. They didn't report that they were doing this. That is an egregious violation of our laws because it prevents oversight in our country. So I went to CHD and I said, hey, we have a case here. We have a case to put this to bed right now. I'm going to give you the hammer of Thor. Let's, you guys, take them to task. Let's put RFK Jr. in the spotlight. Let's have him launch the most important case maybe in our country's history right now. They said, well, Dr. Ealy, you sound like you know what you're talking about, but we need more. We need to make sure that it's peer reviewed. Okay. We went through a 2-month peer review process, Doc. Have you ever heard of that for a paper? 2-month peer review. We went through regular peer review plus 9 attorneys and a federal judge to validate this paper. The paper gets validated. It survives peer review. I go back to CHD. We're sitting down in a meeting. I say, okay, we did what you asked. Now what? They say, well, we still don't believe you.
What?
Facts don't require your belief. These are facts. I've proven it. It's survived peer review. Well, why don't you see if you can find a death reporting clerk to validate your position on the death certificates being illegally modified. Okay. I went and got the death reporting clerk, 5 years experience. She not only validated everything that we found, she showed us where we were underselling what was going on. That the National Vital Statistics System can change whatever information that's submitted by a doctor at their discretion without any oversight. She showed us all of that. We're in a meeting, Doc, with CHD, and RFK Jr. is on the call, in private, of course, right? I'm a loose cannon. You got to remember that about me. I'm somebody that won't be controlled, okay? And they are grilling my person, my death certificate reporting clerk, like she's a criminal. It got so bad in the meeting that I had to stop the meeting. And we're talking like there's 20 people on this Zoom call. I have to stop the meeting and demand that they apologize to her for how they're treating her. And I come to them and I say, listen, we're at this moment where it's time to shit or get off the pot. We've been at this for months. I've been telling you about this all for months, and you all just feel like you don't want to run with this, but we're talking about protecting children's health. We know what's coming. They're going to try to force mandate vaccines on everybody all around the world. We got to take them on right now. Whether or not it works, who cares? We got to get this publicized. We got to get this out in a big way. I don't even need any name credit on it. You guys can take all the name credit. They ghost us after that meeting. They renege on their promise to back us in this legal effort. So what I end up doing is I put together my own team, a collection of a couple senators, and we notify the district attorney, the United States attorney in their area. And we cite a specific part of United States law that says upon notification, it is a United States attorney shall inform a grand jury to investigate the issue. There's no choice in the matter that they have. Well, that guy sends our work to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice contacts the senators and tells the senators, 2 senators, to kick rocks. So the senators come back to me and say, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, we got to file. Like, this is clearly, they're trying to protect this. We got to file. So we file a 63-page petition, grand jury petition in federal court, and we file and we send over 1,000 pages of exhibit evidence to substantiate everything that we've been saying in the paper. The courts kick the paper out. They tell 2 senators representing hundreds of thousands of people in this country that those senators do not have standing, and that this was not fraud. We appeal it. The Department of Justice steps in, and rather than investigating what we have found, protect the named defendants that we put on the grand jury petition: Rochelle Walensky, Xavier Becerra, Brian Moyer, I think it was Scott Gottlieb, and then James Redfield, the predecessor at the CDC. We named them all. We served all of them. I paid for all of it. We moved forward when nobody else would back us. And CHD didn't like that, because we started getting some attention and CHD wasn't involved. So I start bringing CHD back in. They still won't back us nationally. It's ridiculous.
Hi, me again. You're listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or on his Substack, or simply buy him a coffee with one of the donation links, which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Listen, I need to ask you something. Dude, that's an incredible story. So basically, you uncovered fraud at a national, federal level that could have debunked the whole thing, and they didn't back you. Now, was this grand stupidity, or was this them sabotaging you?
It was sabotage. We got emails. I have emails that were sent to me privately that CHD in the leadership attempted to torpedo the paper while it was in peer review.
Why would they do that?
That's a good question. Why do you think they would?
The only logical thing is that they're not really who they say they are, and their job is to pretend to be one of the good guys, and they're acting as a Trojan horse, controlled opposition, taking your energy and frustration and turning it into nothing.
That's possible. It doesn't mean it's true, and I think we need to be clear about that.
Yeah. I'm just saying. You asked me what could it be. Like I said, it could be that.
But I've wondered myself. You know, I saw that the Children's Health Defense just filed a lawsuit against Secretary Kennedy. So I think there's new leadership at Children's Health Defense, and I'm very excited to see that there is new leadership.
So what was the lawsuit against?
It was that he hadn't named or filled out a committee that he had promised to fill out, and that it's his duty to fill out. I didn't really read much through it, so I'm not the best person to ask.
So when it comes to MAHA, I think there's been a few betrayals so far. Like there's legal immunity for the pesticide giants. There's fighting to keep fluoride in the water. There's this, wearable tech promotion, which is kind of like bizarre. Anyone who knows Bluetooth and Wi-Fi is not good for your body. And it's funny that the Surgeon General has a company that does that, or her sibling does. They're pushing the MMR measles vax when it's like, what the hell? Reversing PFAS.
You want to hear about that one?
One second. I want to come back to that, the whole measles thing. And they're reversing the whole PFAS thing, the bans, forever chemical bans. And also, under the PrEP Act, the HHS Secretary, currently Bobby, has the power to end a declaration of a public health emergency. He's
Right.
got the power to say, you know what, there is no public health emergency. And his predecessor extended it into like late 20s, 2029 or something like that. And the problem with that is if you declare a public health emergency, that means under the PrEP Act, you give immunity to vaccine manufacturers, big pharma, the distributors, the healthcare providers, the hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, the vaccinators. You give fucking immunity to all of these people, even if there is clinical negligence.
Yes.
And it's all okay. It's kosher. And the
Right.
PrEP Act essentially, you said it earlier on, the PrEP Act basically just gives legal cover for people to say now, I was just doing my job. I was following orders.
Correct.
That's all it does.
Correct.
And overnight, Bobby could say, hey, American people, guess what? There isn't any public health emergency. So you know what, folks?
Mm-hmm.
I'm declaring there is no public health emergency. And as a result, all immunity to all said parties mentioned above are now null and void. You know what? With that one thing, I'm not saying everything would be fixed, but it would go a long fracking way. Now, some people are saying, oh, he's not doing that because if he did that, that's the nuclear option. And they would simply sack him and replace him and it'd be with someone even worse. So what? I've seen a video of Bobby from a few years back where he said, I'm willing to die over this. And the mRNA jabs are evil and this and that. And I will die to do this. So fine. Do it then. Just do it and tell the public, hey, everybody, there's a lot of bad shit going on. I thought DC was a swamp. It is so deep. My little tippy toes can't touch the bottom. And I'm going to do this one thing to try and help things. But folks, it will be my political suicide and maybe even my physical suicide. I have no suicidal intention, but if I'm found dead or a nasty car accident or airplane crash, you know what happened. I pulled the plug and they didn't like it. And bad people are in charge, people that I thought I could trust and genuinely believed in Maha and MAGA, but they're not. They're not. So I'm just letting you know. So this might be my last speech as an HHS secretary. Here you go. Do you know what? I'd have a lot of respect for him. I'd be like, awesome,
Tons
dude.
Respect. Oh, endless respect. Right? Endless. My advice to them when they started to come into power was you need to flex immediately. You need to flex immediately because President Trump won the election because of Maha coming in to support.
Yeah, that's because you don't know how to play 5D chess, man. You need to just accept your failings.
I know. So when you talk about the PrEP Act has one loophole that we've been attempting to exploit through our grand jury work. And that is the PrEP Act becomes null and void with proof of willful misconduct.
Yes, I saw that.
And so that's what we've been going after is, hey, fraud and the violation of the number of laws that we have proven have been violated is evidence of willful misconduct. Now, of course, the courts are designed not to protect justice and the people, but to protect criminals, right? We don't live in a country, we live in a crime scene, is what I've been telling people for years. Well, finishing off that whole escapade with CHD back in 2020, after they ghosted us, we still supported CHD. We still supported the local chapters. There's so many good people involved in that organization that I just couldn't abandon them, knowing what I knew at that time. We move forward. We keep working. We keep doing our thing and everything. And the election has happened. President Trump is in. Everybody's getting excited. I'm going to tell you, Doc, I'm damn near in tears thinking that, oh my God, we are going to have something happen in this country that we've only dreamed of. This is an incredible opportunity. Everything is about to come to light.
Yeah.
Wrong. When I get contacted by an intermediary, a representative of RFK Jr., to assist on the measles thing. They wanted somebody to come in and organize a group of people that had begun working on a response to it that would help promote natural medicine. So I said, oh, great. I'm going to make you look like a champ. We're going to go to Oregon State University, the Linus Pauling Institute. We're going to pull research showing the role of vitamin A in protecting and curing measles outbreaks. We're going to show vitamin C. We're going to show all these great things, and we're gonna put RFK Jr. in a position to look like an absolute saint, and also start and usher in this incredible era of natural medicine that we're going to spawn now, right? This is going to be great. So I dropped everything I was doing, which is I do a lot of stuff like you every single day. I dropped everything, jumped right in, got the team organized, and we produced an incredible document, an incredible executive summary for him. I'm so proud of how everybody came together and worked and got that done and got it done so fast. I go out after it's over, I go and I take a break. I go out and do a little camping, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to come back in, and this guy is going to be doing a press conference, and he's going to be telling Americans that are scared, moms that are scared, that they can use vitamin A and in what dosing. And here's the research. And he's going to hail one of our major universities and say, we need to be funding natural medicine and the study of nutrients and herbs and things like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is about to be this nascent kickoff point for it. And we're going to put this whole measles thing to bed, and the vaccines and everything.
Because it could have been a golden opportunity.
It was there. It was a golden opportunity. And so I'm driving back into reception, and my phone's blowing up, Doc. And I'm like, okay, that's not good because it's a Sunday. This isn't supposed to happen until Monday. I'm like, what's going on? And people are sending me a Fox interview that RFK Jr. did talking about how the MMR has saved lives and how he's sending MMR vaccines to Texas and left. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? The next day he does the infamous Steak and Shake interview where he's talking about getting about the horrors of seed oils and how we need to use CAFO, you know. I just couldn't believe what was going on, you know, like overnight. I was like, you reached out to me. I didn't ask to do that. I didn't get paid for any of that. You reached out to me for my expertise in natural medicine, which, at the risk of being a braggy dick, is extensive. All right. I founded a school. I have over 300 publications on this. I know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to natural medicine. I will put what I know up against anybody in the world. You want to dance? Let's dance. Okay. I put in my time. I put in my work. I know what I'm doing. And you used me and wasted my time on top of it so that you could go and promote the cult of Asclepius at a Steak and Shake the next day. Well, what happens after all that? We see the cancer salmon gets approved by the FDA with no studies, no long-term safety studies. We see RFK Jr. come out and talk about child experimentation using CRISPR, hailing it as our future of innovation. We see him come out talking about everybody's going to be having a wearable, which we all know is the stepping stone to Neuralink implantation by Elon Musk. We're talking about 24-hour surveillance, the use of AI, the support of the cult of Asclepius, CRISPR, all these things. And not once are we talking about the removal of shots that we know have killed children, that we know were responsible for Simone Scott's death, that we know were responsible for Ernest Ramirez Jr.'s death, and so many children like them. And now so many loved ones have been implicated in respiratory failure, in cardiovascular failure, all throughout the country, all throughout the world. This is not something that's unknown. You have the power today, if you look up aspr.gov, and you go to the legal authority of the Health and Human Services Secretary, he has the power today to declare a pandemic of vaccine injury and shut everything down. He doesn't need presidential authority to do so. It opens up a huge arsenal of power for him, an arsenal of power that he still maintains with the ongoing supposed COVID emergency. That's why they have them in there. His power is immense that he has at his disposal. And yet he uses that power on April 10th. His first major act as Health and Human Services Secretary to fast track the Arcturus 2304 self-amplifying mRNA bioweapon platform. It's a bioweapon. We have to stop calling these things vaccines. It's a bioweapon, and they have a huge arsenal of bioweapons. It's not just in what they call vaccines. And this bioweapon is our Alamo. Its phase 1 clinical trial finished 3 days ago while they were having a $5,000 plate Maha ball for fundraising for some reason. This is what I've asked them. You're in charge of a $4 trillion budget, dude. Why are you raising funds? What are you raising funds for? Where is this money going? Why do you need to have a 5,000 plate dinner gala in Washington, D.C.? Why do you need to have that? And then you're going to be outraged when supposedly some people under your jurisdiction approve a COVID shot that you said wasn't approved, but then you fire those people, but you don't rescind the approval. Like, I don't care what you say, bro. I care what you do. And if you're going to, this starts bringing out the ghetto in me. If you're going to do dirt like that, then I'm going to call you dirty. Now, I don't know what 5D chess is. I've never even attempted to play it. But I do know what somebody does. And what I'm seeing is this mRNA that you fast-tracked, this Arcturus 2304, when it sheds, and it's intended to shed, when it sheds, it's not shedding a protein. It's shedding mRNA. And what that means is that when you come in contact with somebody who's gotten that damn shot, you are going to get vaccinated. You are going to have mRNA transfer into your body if you touch them, if you are in any close proximity to them. And that's this whole globalist eugenicist thing. You are now working for the eugenicists. We sent you in there to dismantle this shit. And instead, it's accelerated. Explain to me, Doc, how that's possible if this guy is on our side.
Dude, you know, and I know something really weird's going on. So, brother, can I just say something? Dude, 1 hour, 58 minutes into the podcast, you really warmed up. This is what I was waiting for. Like, this is what I was waiting. The fire, the ghetto talk. This is it. Dude, I wanted this raw. You're 100% right. Dude, the examples you've given are just perfect, you know. And what I don't understand is why do so many people not see it. They still make excuses for Bobby. And the problem is, you talk about the cult of Scapilius, you know, there's so many cults. There's cults of Bobby, there's cults of Donnie, Trump. There's cults everywhere. Climate change cults, vaccine cults. And the problem is that these cultists, you know, they believe in their hero no matter what they do. It doesn't matter what that hero does, no matter how much criminality and heinous acts. When he smiles at them and speaks those sweet words, they go, oh yeah, see, he's fine. And you know, I have taken so much flack from like before they were appointed to afterwards. I said, look guys, don't put all your hopes in it and you know, and dreams in these people. They're just human beings. They're politicians. Like we have to be vigilant, right? And then when they came into power, I said, you're partying too soon. Nothing's happened yet. They've just got in. What have we won? Let's see what they do. And, you know, we need to hold their feet to the fire and make sure they get the shit done. Like children are dying. Babies are dying. People are being gaslit left and center by the bioweapons and so much more. And you know what? Don't get excited about the CDOS and the red dye. You can choose right now whether you have that or not. No one's mandating it to you. You're not being kicked out of school because you refuse to have your seed oil fries. You're not losing your job because you decided not to eat Skittles. You know, what the fuck?
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
Like, grow up, guys. Like, you're acting like children. Like, in awe of these people. Like, they're not better than you. Why are you doing this to yourself? Dude, I lost so many of my paid subscribers, like so many. Dude, look, if I wanted to be super successful, invited on all the shows, and be super, super wealthy and famous, I need to just do two things. I need to say Trump and Bobby are amazing, and Israel is our greatest ally. Muslims are evil. I'm an ex-Muslim. They're the biggest danger to humanity. We need to fucking bomb the shit at them, and we need to protect Judeo-Christian values. If I said this, right, the Christian Zionist right and all they would love me. I'd be promoted on all their shows, and all the influencers would have me on, and I'd talk about Trump and how he's a hero and he's a legend and how God saved his ear and all that kind of stuff. You know what? That's not the truth, though. The truth is the opposite. I think in some respects it can be even more dangerous, because you know what? If I had a wolf in front of me, I'd be all right with that. Okay? I'm a tough little cookie, right? I would fight, and I'd stab it. I'd get my stick. I would claw its eyes out. I'd be vigilant. I'd tell the kids, get inside the house, shut the doors, lock the doors and windows. Yeah, be prepared, right? Get the knife out. But if a sheep comes along, but it's actually a wolf in the sheep's clothing, and I can't spot that it's a wolf, I let it close. I let it into my house, in my garden. I let my children go and pet it. I go inside and lie down and close my eyes. I'm not vigilant. I'm complacent. I'm relaxed. I've dropped my guard. Wolves in sheep's clothing are 100 times more dangerous than the wolf. People say to me, oh, but Kamala was worse than Biden. Well, I knew they were dog turd. Like, it's fine. I knew to step out of the way. Like, it was okay. Right? I knew, it's fine. But the problem is, even if these people are good, which I'm not saying they are or are not, they are individuals, and all that I have studied, like I said, the Second World War, everything, these are only puppets. If you think the president has power and actually makes the decisions, I'm sorry, reality check, you're an idiot. You don't know your facts yet, right? You're ignorant of the facts. I'll take back the idiot. You're ignorant of the facts. The president does not call the shots. Politicians don't call the shots. They read from the script. They do as they're told. The funding gets pulled, and the deep state, the military industrial complex, the intelligence industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, your bankers, they pull the shots. The globalists pulled the shots. And if you think he could get into power and still be alive, like, if they wanted him dead, he would be dead. Period. He is alive for a reason. And they push people as far as they can on one side. And then when they get a little bit of resistance, they pivot quickly to the other side. Then they push that way. And like a boat tacking in the wind, going that way and that way, port, starboard, the ultimate destination is always straight ahead. They always get what they want. So this idea of choice, wake up, folks, illusion. And the reason why they give you what you want, and they give you the actor who says what you want, is because they push you hard, like on the left with Kamala. That's the overt hard push. And then they go, damn it, they're about to wake up. They're about to walk away from the gambling table. Right? They're about to walk away from the gambling table. And then, if anyone's been to Vegas, right? What do they do? The moment you're about to give up and you're fed up, you've lost money, do you know what? A pretty girl comes along. You get the drinks. They might even throw you a few free chips to play with. They want you to stay at the table. So that pretty girl is Big Orange. That pretty girl is Bobby. They sucker you back in. Bit of hopium. Don't give up. Don't walk away. Then you're back in again. You're invested emotionally. And you know what? Easier to fool people and convince them they're fooled. Even now, I've got people so upset with me. Oh, you're like so critical of Trump and Bobby and those who support him. Like, you just need to keep an open mind. Blah. I'm like you. Forget what people say. Look at what they do. Look at what they do. And like, take for example, right? He appointed Asim Malhotra, a British doctor, who promoted the vaccines and who he promoted the COVID vaccines and still to this day promotes the childhood vaccine schedule. Says vaccines are the safest medical products ever. To this day, he appointed him chief medical advisor to Maha. Because guess what? In America, of 350 million souls, there ain't one of you who could have been the chief medical officer. You, Henry Ealy, are just a dumbass quack. Your 300 publications, and your afro hairstyle, and your blue blocker glasses. Who the frack do you think you are? We're going to get a British doctor, because we're better. We're superior to you. And he still thinks the childhood vaccines are better. And you had, and he on your vaccine schedule committee, I don't know what it's called, CIC, AIC, or whatever it's called.
Bob.
He appointed Angus Dalgleish, professor
that's right. You were telling me about that dude. Right?
Another English dude, who promoted the COVID shots, told pregnant women to get it, told young kids to get it. He's so smart. He's such an amazing professor that he got that one wrong. Because he's so smart, right?
Right.
Like, figure that one out. And even this year when I asked him, have you given up on vaccines yet? Because last year you wrote an article about the biggest problem with the COVID vaccines is it undermines trust in the other vaccines. I was like, that's a problem? That's a good thing, for God's sake. Like, it's a good thing that, it's called a vaccine, even though it's a genetic bioweapon. I'm glad they've actually called it a vaccine, because now we know what a crock of shit that is. It makes the average person go, well, if this vaccine's like this, what are the other vaccines like?
Right.
No, but last year he's writing, the problem is with COVID, it now undermines public trust in these other vaccines. So I pulled him up on that. I said, all right, tell me, like, you still stand by that article? That was him, right? So dodge my questions. And some of them, which ones? Which ones then? Some of them. Which ones? Couldn't answer it. I've been too busy on the mRNA. Listen, I'm a freaking orthopedic foot and ankle surgeon, right? It takes one afternoon to look into it. You're meant to be this big, awesome professor going around the globe, speaking to everybody. Everybody's bowing in front of you. Professor Dalgleish. You can't spend an afternoon looking into this shit. That's all it took me. It doesn't take much unless you're not looking deliberately, unless your funding stream is coming from that, unless your whole career,
that's where it is.
Unless your whole career has been built on vaccines, cancer vaccines. And now he's on the committee, an American committee, a British professor who got it so wrong. He's on that. And people say to me, well, you got it wrong, Doc. You took one shot. I'm very honest about that, Henry. Under coercion.
Yeah.
Under coercion, manipulation, 30 minutes of weakness. My wife and myself, our marriage was on the brinks. It was bad period in my life. Everybody's pushing me, the hospitals, my colleagues, my wife. 30 minutes of weakness, and I cried immediately afterwards like a baby. And I vowed never ever again. I never pushed it on TV. I never pushed it on the newspaper. I never pushed the fracking vaccine ever. And by calling it out, I lost my career and my job. So screw you when you compare me to Angus Dalgleish. Sorry if I'm getting a bit passionate, but screw you if you think I'm equivalent to that man. What the frack? And I don't care if you're my supporter. What the frack? I don't want £5 a month to compare me with that guy. No thanks. Don't be my supporter. I don't need a supporter like that. Right? So, and he's now on your American committee. This is all under Bobby's watch. Why are you not on the committee? Why is Ben Tapper not on it? Why is Sherry Tenpenny not on it? Why is Suzanne Humphreys not on it? Tell me why all these people.
Seneff?
Yeah,
we can keep naming name after name after name, eminently qualified, but nowhere near.
Where are they all? Why are they not on the committee? Tell me. And they passed there was an influenza vaccine or something like that. They passed. The next spike, like this and that. What the frack are you talking about? What is going on with Maha? And still, I have people arguing with me and upset with me when I say, I'm not happy with Bobby. Not happy with him. And look, don't get me wrong. They might have a gun to his head. They might have a gun to his kid's head. They might have, I don't know.
Right.
He's friends
Right.
with Rabbi Shmuley. That tells you everything. Look, I don't know what the hell is going on. But look, there's a guy called Mark Scow. I don't know if you know him. He Died Suddenly, the filmmaker. You know the film Died Suddenly? You need to check it out.
I've heard of the film. Yeah, I've heard of the film.
Dude, he's an amazing filmmaker. Oh my God, he's an amazing human being. I did a podcast. It just came out recently, yesterday. He put it eloquently. He said, Doc, there comes a point where, do you know what? We have to take responsibility for the shit that we're at. We deserve what's coming at us. We accepted that RFK was assassinated, by one lone gunman when it's clearly the CIA, the mafia, and Mossad. We accept the Gulf of Tonkin.
Dulles.
Yeah, that criminal. We accept 9/11. The intact passport. Those bad Muslims. Ignore the dancing Israelis. Ignore the building number 7. The controlled demolition. No. We accept the narrative. We accept the safe and effective narrative. I mean, we just keep buying every BS that they throw at us. It gets to a point where they're laughing at us and they go, see, these guys are idiots. They're sheep.
Yeah.
They deserve to be culled. They deserve to be slaughtered.
It reinforces their psychopathic notion of their own superiority. Like what you understand is that like we've had to go down some dark roads, right? Me and you, there's things we've had to experience, but there's also research we've had to do that or if you're objective means changing your mind in the presence of new information. It means admitting that, hey, I might not be right about everything. I can admit that to myself today about everything I've shared today, everything I've written. I may not be right about everything, but I'm always going to stand in the side of integrity, where if I'm not right, I'm going to admit it and I'm going to change my mind in the presence of that new information, right? Like that's what an objective person does, right? That's what integrity looks like. So, you start going through all this and you go, okay, let me start putting together, because again, the easiest way for me to read the room is by actions, not words. I could give a shit about anybody's words. But what did you do? Well, I had to start asking some hard questions. One of the hard questions I had to ask was, well, who was the first person voted in for President Trump's cabinet? Well, the first person that gets voted in is Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Now, this is bananas to me. He gets voted in actually before the president is inaugurated. That's crazy to me. How is that possible? And what you have to look at is the voting record. He gets voted in 99-0. You mean to tell me there wasn't one Democrat that opposed him? That's by design. The second person that gets onto President Trump's cabinet is, I'm forgetting his exact name, but the head of the CIA. So the first two people that make it onto the cabinet are a Secretary of State, and Secretary of State is for war, and the CIA for intelligence. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a terrible idea. This traces back all the way to Allen Dulles and John Dulles. John Dulles becomes the Secretary of State under President Truman. Allen Dulles becomes the head of the CIA under President Truman. They are what is deemed the original deep state. They're the ones that start this deep state idea that the president will send you an order and an edict and tell you what to do, and that you can ignore him with impunity and do whatever you want because whatever the president doesn't know won't hurt him, kind of deal. Now, Allen Dulles is implicated in JFK's assassination because Allen Dulles, along with his brother, had one goal in their combined work together: to start a war with Russia. Thus the Bay of Pigs, thus the Cuban Missile Crisis and all of that JFK said, no, we're not going to get into a war with Russia over this. You have to stop for a second and go, remember that as bad as Stalin was, and believe me, he's no day at the beach, all right? The United States was allied with Russia during World War II, but immediately after World War II, now they're our enemy, and Germany is our ally now. Like, you have to understand like how all this happens, and literally overnight this all takes place. It's all to set the groundwork in this country because they knew that Hitler, the folks that funded Hitler and we're banking on him being able to dominate the world, they knew that, well, Hitler's going to fail. We got to now incubate his ideas in another country. Well, where are you going to incubate that? In Russia or in the United States? Because those are the two choices. They chose to incubate those ideas in the United States, and now we're living in the maturation of those ideas. And that has a global impact, a dramatic global impact. When I talk to people, and this has been my big disappointment, Doc, throughout the last several years. One, I was pissed, and I still am pissed about this. So few people backed us on our grand jury exercise. I reached out. If there is a name out there, I reached out to that name. Don't think for a second that I don't know everybody like you know everybody out there. I've been a dude that's been working a lot in the backgrounds, but I know everybody. And if I'm not, I can get in touch with them like that if I don't know them, right? Anybody that's anybody in this supposed health freedom movement, we know who they are and we know what they're about. Not one. There are so many big names that would not back our effort. And I started asking myself, why won't you back it? It's going to look good for you. Like, I don't need any credit. I just want to win. I just want to make sure that our children are protected and that we are free and that they aren't poking us with bioweapons, let alone mandating that we get poked with bioweapons to do things like, I don't know, go to school, stuff like that. Like, this is ridiculous. Aren't we all on the same team? Then you learn going through this process, we're not all on the same team. I started learning that when I was sitting in that meeting with CHD. We're not all on the same team. We don't see the world the same way. And that's not a good thing because outwardly there's the appearance that we see the world the same way, which means one of us is lying, which means that one of us is promoting an illusion of ourselves. And I don't do that. What you see is what you get. I'm WYSIWYG. If I fuck up, I fuck up. I'm going to own it. If I do something, if I'm doing something right, and if I'm right about something, I'm a pit bull on a stake. I'm not letting that go, right? And I told them this. I don't work for you. I work for God, baby. I don't need your permission to do what's right. I don't need anybody's permission to do what's right. I reject that notion on its face instantly. You can go get fucked as far as I'm concerned. What I'm about is speaking truth. What I do is work my ass off to know what that truth is and deliver it in a way to help people see the light. Because the light is where the salvation is. That's why we love knowing what we know, because it helps us avoid landmines. And a lot of those landmines are people with nefarious intent. They might be smiling in your face, but don't think for a second when you turn your back, they aren't going to put a knife in it.
Yeah.
The people I'm worried about aren't the people, the deep state. No, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the people that call themselves my friends.
Yeah.
I'm worried about those people, right? Because those people are the people that'll smile in your face and fuck you up when you turn around.
See,
now,
the wolf in sheep's clothing. This is
right,
what I'm talking about.
That's what it is. That's what it is, right?
So many of them.
So for us, it becomes this effort of, look, what's my job here? Well, my job is, number one, to not pretend. Not like, and I know the things I say. Like, I was on an interview a couple weeks ago, and they were asking me about shedding and stuff like that. And I told them the truth about Arcturus 2304 and Arcturus 154 and the self-amplifying mRNAs that are coming down the pipeline. I told them about these things. And you could see the looks on their faces, like, oh my God, nobody's going to like hearing that. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you don't like hearing the truth or not. That's not my job. The reason we're in the situation we're in is because we've been complicit not wanting to hear the truth and let alone act upon it. It's not comfortable. It doesn't make us feel good. So I don't want to hear about it. Well, you can go take that ostrich approach if you want and go bury your head in the sand, but that bioweapon is still coming for you whether you do that or not. Here, right now, us talking about it, we have a fighting chance. I'm a fighter. I'll take that chance. But if I go bury my head in the sand, or if I tell you lollipops and rainbows and shit that you want to hear, then all I'm doing is what the oppressor is doing. I've just become your oppressor at the same time. And so for me, I come in, I'm like, listen, bro, I was raised, my father's a history professor, right? So I'm raised on slavery. My first books, yes, were Dr. Seuss and Mercer Mayer and some of those things, but my first books were also, you know, Harriet Tubman, the autobiography, the Frederick Douglass, 12 Years a Slave. Like, I was raised in the reality of what's going on. I was raised in the reality of the role of the Roman Catholic Church in production of slavery, internationally. The immense role that they play. I don't have any illusions about any of that shit, right? So one of the things that gets instilled to me, and what I'm hearing now with some other information I was actually born to come in and do, was I am hostile to any notion of slavery. And I will be eternally hostile to any notion of slavery because it prevents people from experiencing the freedom and love of God. The
Amen.
freedom and love to be able to be connected with something far greater than yourself that is good, that is truly good, and the feeling of what that is and the potential that that can create within us. And if we're going to get to that place, we have to have honest conversations about the place we are currently in, so we know what we need to do about it. There's a reason why the last 4 or 5 years I've been working extensively on bioweapons, studying everything I can, looking for all the natural cures in nature. There's a reason why I've partnered with Dr. Brian Artis and Dr. Ed Group and Dr. Janice Schmidt in the work that we do with Healing for the Ages, because we are all eternally aligned on this point, that all of the solutions exist here. And yes, it's in simple, stupid things like changing your light bulbs from LEDs to incandescents and making sure that you turn off social media, and give yourself a break from the indoctrination, that you question the things that they say we shouldn't question. And that if somebody is uncomfortable with you taking an objective point of integrity in your life, that you can still love them and wish them well as they depart from your life. I don't need people around me who are going to give me shit for fighting for children. I don't need people around me who are going to give me shit for researching how to help people heal who've been fucked over by bioweapons. I don't need people around me who think I'm Hitler because I think there's some shit that Israel has done that's messed up. That doesn't mean that Israel's the only country that's done some messed up stuff. We can go right back to the United States and show you. I can list off a litany of things that we've done. It's not saying that that's the only messed up place. It's saying that there is a right and a wrong, and it is black and white, and that killing children for profit is wrong, period. And that if we can't agree on that, then that means we are polarly opposed. And now I have to stop for a second, because I have to wonder, am I being brought into another one of their evil conjuring tricks?
So
I have to see if I'm falling for something. You know what I'm saying?
100%. So let's go back now. Measles, right? The measles outbreak. That was such a weird thing, right? Such a weird thing. I really wanted Bobby to say, hey, everybody, chillax. Let me just tell you about measles. Measles has been around for ages. Let's look at Suzanne Humphreys and Roman Bistrianic's work. Guess what? The mortality of measles dropped by 1940-50 to almost nothing because of clean sanitation water. Don't worry, folks. In fact, guess what? Measles vaccines came long after it was a rock bottom. So unless you're really sick and unwell, there's nothing really to worry about. There were measles parties, folks. So it's all good. And guess what? Let me also tell you, most of the measles cases now are from kids that are vaccinated and are shedding. So actually, don't worry about it. And actually, if you've got measles, look, bit of water, bit of rest, stay off school, take some vitamin A. It's going to be fine. Give your kid lots of love and cuddles and reassurance. All good.
Done.
That's it. Done. Oh, and if you really want to ramp it up a bit, go, guess what, folks? I hate to tell you, actually, looking at the MMR, there's some serious concerns. This combination vaccine and its flawed studies, conflicts of interest, the Merck company, and all the crap that's gone behind, and all the fabrication of data. Check out Protocol 7. I mean, we can go a little bit darker for you if you want. I mean, I gave you the good stuff. Now we're going to the dark stuff. I mean, I would have done that as the HHS secretary. I'd be like, I know, folks, I know it's a shocker. It's a shocker. But folks, like seriously, if it was my kids again, I wouldn't have them injected with MMR. I've been there. I wasn't an anti-vaxxer. I vaccinated my kids, but as someone who vaccinated my kids and myself, I'm now telling you I wouldn't. And the question is, you should be asking why. Why has he changed his mind? And that's the $1 million question. Because guess what? I was sold a lie. It's not what I thought it was. It's not safe and effective. It doesn't stop infection. It doesn't stop transmission. If anything, it just makes your symptoms slightly milder. But at what cost? What cost of immune complications, autoimmunity, allergies, asthma, ADHD, autism, and you name it. Something's not right. And I think the risk-benefit ratio is not there. And I cannot, if in full honesty, take your informed consent in advocating this product. Boom. Job done.
Mic drop, right? Could you imagine him, bro? Could you imagine him pulling out a insert for the MMR and just reading through the insert with everybody to show what informed consent should look like in your medical office? Right? Like that's the press conference. You could do it at Steak and Shake. I'd be fine with that, right? But could you imagine him just reading straight from, it could cause this, post-marketing surveillance data could cause this, here are the contraindications, here's what you need to ask your doctor about if you're even considering it. You can still get it. I would never get it for me or my children. We would go with vitamin A. But here, let me show you, know what I'm saying? Dude, that's what we set him up to do, bro. That's what we set him up to do.
That's what all those Maha mums wanted. Isn't it? Oh man. So listen, so what I'm trying to say is, then there was this article that he wrote.
Yeah.
And people said, oh, and I'll show it to you now, right? It's got his thing on it. So he needs to take responsibility for this, right? And he goes, Robert F. Kennedy, measles outbreak is a call. MMR vaccine is crucial to avoiding potentially deadly disease. Opinion by Robert. And I said this. I was like, this guy's promoting the vaccine? And everybody was like, no, this has been added. It was added. It wasn't him. It was like his edit. No, you can actually go to the original paper he wrote, and he has written that. And then they were like, no, you never read the full article. No, I did read the full article. Yeah, he says a little bit of vitamin A and blah, blah, blah. But the end result is, look at this. Vaccines not only protect individual children from measles, but also contribute. No, this is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Why are you doing this? It's all a lie. Like, why are you selling me this bullshit? And when I was highlighting this, I still had people going, oh, you haven't read the article. No, he's doing great work. Like some people, like, you know what? You're in my way. Get out of my way. Like, you are not helping. I'm in a war. I'm in a fight. And like, you're coming into my trenches saying, where's the canteen? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you have Terminators coming with lasers, and you're like asking me where the cafeteria is. Like, just get out of my face. Move out the way. And so he didn't drop the mic. He fucked up. That's what I think.
Thank you.
And I don't care what excuses. Oh, you know what? He's playing 5D chess. He's being cornered. They were setting him up for a trap.
No.
So to avoid the trap, he had to do this. What? He had to lie? Like, that's what you do? No. Like, if you're in the army of God, you tell the truth. Like, what are you?
That's right.
What are you saying? Like, if I was being sabotaged and trapped, I'd be like, guns blazing, sword of flame coming in. I'd be like, fucking shed my righteous anger on them, and I'd show them what's going on. Don't give me this bullshit. Don't give me this bullshit that, oh, he had to do this, and and he has to placate all those people and the liberals. The liberals never fucking placated us. They rammed it down our throat. We're not ramming anything down anyone else's throat except the goddamn truth. And it's like, there is a difference. Don't equate the two. So what I want to ask is that measles outbreak, and the deaths, right? We didn't even know about the deaths. Like, you never know. What was it? The hospital protocols? Did they fucking kill the kid when they went to hospital? Did they deprive them of fluids and stuff and give them remdesivir and Tamiflu? What did they do even to the kid? And the next thing is, did they have any comorbidities? And the measles outbreak, was it in vaccinated children or was it unvaccinated? And, were they exposed to vaccinated kids recently? All these questions I have. Do you have any of the answers to that?
Well, I have a few. The First and foremost, after I had sent the, after I was the guy that helped get RFK Jr. connected with the family. And the part of the plan that we had put together for him was that he was going to contact the family, the mother and father, and on behalf of the American people, offer his condolences and ask what could we do to help support. Okay. He did contact the family. I'm sure he offered some kind of condolences, to them for their daughter. And then the very next day, that opinion piece comes out on March 2nd. That's what I started getting. Everybody was blowing me up on my phone, sending me like, "Can you believe this article, the one that you just showed on Fox?" The deal was supposed to be that because I had facilitated all of these connections and worked on the executive summary for him, I was supposed to get the medical records. I was supposed to get the medical records so I could work with my team on them, and we could go through and properly assess whether this was hospital error or whether this was unfortunate, what really happened. What comes out of it is the child did not get admitted to the hospital with a confirmed case of measles. The child developed measles in the hospital. So the treatment was not what I would have done. They went into a ventilation, process, which is where you have to suppress respiratory function. I have a dear friend whose son is right now going through that as well. We're trying to get him off of the ventilator, and the danger of going on ventilation is that you have to suppress respiratory function, which is going to suppress cardiovascular function. It's basically a downer. You put them on fentanyl and opioids and things like that typically. And that contributed without a doubt to the child's, passing. Cause is going to be debated because that's what we do. We always debate because nobody ever wants to blame either the person or the cult of Asclepius pharmaceutical. Nobody wants to blame those ever. So, what actually happened, we're left to whatever record is there, and and that's just what it is. But the reality is that two parents lost their daughter. And they lost their daughter for reasons that likely did not have to happen. And for me, that's where I land on the sadness of it. Now, I of course called up the person who reached out to me and brought me into all this stuff at the last minute, and I lit his ass up after it was all over. I was furious because they sent the records over to somebody that I have no respect for whatsoever as a medical professional. But he's one of these people that's in that clique. And so they know that they can tell him what to say and he will say it. So, my whole attitude with that whole thing was I wrote a big op-ed piece that my school published on that doc, kind of showing everything that happened, the timeline of things that happened and my involvement and everything, because my personal feeling is the more we protect the people that are supposedly on our side but doing wrong, the more complicit we are in it. Like I want to hold their feet to the fire. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to be on board with wrong action. I'm going to celebrate you when you do good, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire when you aren't. Now, of course, that's left to my discretion and my opinion, but my opinions are pretty easy in this one. CRISPR is bad. Cancer salmon is bad. Self-amplifying mRNA is getting fast-tracked as your first act as the Health and Human Services Secretary is bad. Putting together a committee with Bob Malone on it is bad. Not having Zen Honeycutt, who is an authority on glyphosate, involved in some way, shape, or form in the FDA, not having Sherry Tenpenny involved on vaccines, not having Stephanie Seneff involved visibly, you know what I'm saying, on these high-level committees is bad. And bringing in Makari, who's also British, by the way, he's got dual citizenship, bringing these people in that we don't need in lieu of people that have been supporting you for literally more than a decade and who you know and whose credentials are beyond reproach is bad. And if we can't have that conversation, if that makes me a villain now, then I'm going to tell you that you're a sheep. I'm going to tell you that you're an ostrich. I'm going to tell you that you need to wake up, not because I need you to wake up, but because your life depends on you waking up. And if you have any modicum of self-interest, you will start asking questions. Now, I know you've been watching social media like I have. I've been off pretty much for the last month. Thank God. It's been so great. I got to tell you, Doc, it's been so great. I mean, I even am debating whether I want to really go back on it. But what I have seen is that the tide has shifted dramatically, and more people are like, hey, this is fucked up. You aren't doing your job. When are you going to ban a shot? I
Yeah.
think Dr. Mary has been doing a great job with that. I think there's a number of people that have been really like yourself, me, who've just been like, look, we're not going to let up. And it's going to take all of us not letting up to get something that we actually want that's actually good, and make the enemy have to respect us, because like you said earlier, and I think this was key, and I don't want your audience to miss this. This enemy, these eugenicists, these psychopaths, they do not respect us. They consider us beneath them. They consider us unclean. They consider us slaves. They consider us useless eaters,
Cattle.
worthy of extermination
Cattle.
at their
Exactly.
discretion. So until you, and this is where that makes them a bully. And now you've had an experience with a bully. I've had experiences with bullies. How do you get a bully to stop messing with you? You punch them
back.
square in the face.
Absolutely.
You punch them and you keep punching them until they are down and they stay down. You teach them a lesson that they will never forget. And the numbers that we have can teach that lesson. But if we're not willing to meet an enemy on this battlefield that's willing to kill us, then we're going to lose.
100%.
And we're going to lose big. That's just how it is.
I'm going to show you something which I was shocked to see. So this is Asim Malhotra on national TV. He's being interviewed by a Channel 4 news reporter, and I hope you can hear this. Listen to this. Let's see.
We are doing this to our children. He clearly believes
Can you hear it?
that vaccines cause autism.
Listen, that was certainly what he said before he got into this role. Of course, now he's in this
Let's
role.
play it back. Let's play it back. You need to listen to that.
We are doing this to our children. He clearly believes that vaccines cause autism.
Listen, that was certainly what he said before he got into this role. Of course, now he's in this role. He has different stakeholders.
Now that he's got into this role, he has got different stakeholders. Dude, did you hear that?
Yep.
Asim Malhotra, who's in Maha, Chief Medical Advisor, has just said, let's get you back on. He has just said, that's what he was saying before he got into his role. But now that he's got into his role, he's got different stakeholders. Stakeholders, dude. That sounds like people who make money. Who are those people? If it's not the American public, who the fuck are these stakeholders?
Thank you. I had that same thought when I first heard that clip, bro. I had that same thought. Oh, stakeholder, what an interesting word you're using.
Interesting, right?
What a very
talk.
curious word. That's a W. And guess where he's been? WEF in Geneva. That dude is a straight plant. That dude has been planted for real, and he's been activated so much. He's not just planted for Great Britain, for the UK. He's planted for America too now. This is the insanity of it all. And it's like you look at people and you're like, listen, y'all, listen. I could be wrong, sure. Let's be objective, right? Being full
integrity.
You could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I could be wrong.
Maybe he's just stupid.
You don't have any evidence of that. He could be stupid. He could be misinformed. He could be ignorant. He could just be
Right. But I do read the tea leaves. I do watch what people do. And when you start letting little words out of the bag, words have power. You start letting little words out of the bag about he's got different stakeholders. My first question becomes, and if I was in that interview, you said an interesting word, dude. Who are the stakeholders? Because last time I checked, he was sworn in to work on behalf of we, the people, the American people. Those are the stakeholders. Those are the ones that supposedly pay his salary, his check. But you're telling me somebody else is paying him now. Who are those people paying them? Oh, you can't tell me? You can't tell me because they're the same people paying you.
Yeah.
So this is the number one rule of infiltration. Before you can effectively infiltrate an organization, because this is the history of the CIA, always sending people in to infiltrate and then disrupt and break, right? These are what they call the chaos agents, right? The Bob Malones and people like that of the world, right? What is the number one thing you have to do if you're going to be an effective chaos agent? Earn the trust first. And how do you earn the trust? By saying what they want you to say, saying what that audience wants to hear, right? And of course, it doesn't hurt. Asim's a good-looking dude. It doesn't hurt. You got to have a good-looking dude. You can't have somebody that nobody wants to look at or listen to in there. And now all he's got to do is say what the people want to hear. He came out, and what did he do? I found the light. I'm a doctor. I used to be pro-vax, and now these shots are killing people. And now what do you have? Somebody who was primed and now activated, and he instantly earns the trust. Why? Because everybody loves a convert. Oh, you were against us, but now you get it. Why don't you go to the front of the line now? Wait, hold on, time out. Why in the world does somebody that just that's how spies work. Why does somebody who just said they believed this thing and they've had an epiphany, they found God, you're going to move them from that enemy position into the front of your leadership structure? Have you lost your mind? Have you read The Art of War? You know, that is a horrific idea. That if you want to lose the war, that's what you do. Those people go to the end of the line and they earn their stripes. And even then, you never let them get to a position of power because you can never know if they're going to reactivate and flip. They already flipped once. What you do is you trust the people who have been all over this topic from day one. You
Once
trust
a cheater,
the people
always
that
a cheater.
Always a cheater, bro. Always. Once a liar, you always a liar, bro. And I can never trust a liar. That's just what it is. Now, I say that, and they're like, hey, I know you've heard this one, Doc. You're being too hard on them, Dr. Ealy. No, you're not being hard enough. I want to win. This is the pathway to winning. If you don't demand more, you're going to get more of the same. I am somebody that is going to constantly demand more. And then I'm not going to wait on some politician to deliver it or some corporation to deliver it. I'll go build the new world. I don't need your permission. I don't need your help. In fact, I don't want your help. But this is the mentality of toughness we got to bring into people. And the only way you do that is by showing them what's really going on.
I think you've nailed it. Dude, so well done. Well done. I love it. I mean, look, the problem is most people don't know what's at stake. They're asleep at the wheel. Like, they think, yeah, something's bad going on. There's a bit of corruption, you know, bloody globalists, WEF. They don't actually understand how existential this threat is. Like, we are in the midst of World War III. We are at the precipice. And if we are not going to swing this around, our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren are fucked.
That's what it is.
Like, so badly fucked. I mean, it might even be the end of the Homo sapiens. Now they want the nano sapiens. It might be.
They want the transhumans. Mm-hmm.
The transhumans. This might be the end of our species and the beginning of something evil and satanic and God knows what else. Like,
that's what it is.
And if you're not going to fight for your children and grandchildren, I don't know what the fuck you're here for.
I can't. If you're not going to do that, I can't respect you. I can still love you, right? But I cannot respect you.
No, you know, I'd go even further, dude. Are you married?
No.
You're not married?
No.
Okay. Do you have a partner?
Maybe.
Do you love him, her?
It's not a him.
By the way, I had a feeling. I had a feeling it wasn't. Do you love her?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Would you love her if you didn't respect her?
Not a chance.
So that's
But-
where you're wrong. You can't respect.
Well,
You cannot not respect people and still love
let me
them.
amend that. Let me amend that because give me a second to just think on that, because that's actually a really good question. Here's what I'd say. Can I love her? In truth, yes. Because we're not all meant to get it, whatever that it is, in this lifetime. And I don't feel bound by that, and I don't feel that it's right to put somebody under those expectations. Would I be with her? No. There would be
So this is
zero
what I'm trying to
chance
say.
of that.
What I'm trying to say is, I think you're kind of right, but what I'm trying to say is, respect and love are intimately bonded. So what you
I
can
feel
say
you on that.
So what I'm saying is that you can be disappointed in people, or you can feel like people just don't know the full picture, and you still love them. But like, if you don't respect them, I don't see how you can love them. Like you
Right.
respect them because they're your fellow man. You realize that in them is God, and in you is God, and that's why you love everyone around you. And ultimately, that's why you do respect them, because we're all the one. We're all one creation, one species.
Right.
So there is that respect. There is that
Yeah.
respect, but it's just
Yeah.
that you're at a level, you're disappointed in them, or you realize, like a parent and they're like a child, they're living in ignorance. They don't see the
No.
big picture.
Here's the thing for that example, and here's the difference. All right, respectfully. In the example you gave, they were willfully being ignorant of what's going
No,
on.
I didn't use the word willfully. I said they don't know any better. They've been brainwashed,
Okay.
propagandized. They're
Then
ignorant.
that's
They're
my
ignorant to facts.
misinterpretation. Let's take these situations. So they are unique, and they do require a little bit of our nuance in terms of how we discuss them, right? Let's take the person, Doc, that's willfully ignorant. The doctor from Great Britain you were talking about, they know that they're wrong, and they're still promoting it because promoting it benefits them.
Yes. Yes.
I can't respect that person whatsoever.
I can't either.
You're doing wrong, and that brings harm into this world, and specifically harm to children. I cannot respect you because you are profiting off of that. You know it's wrong and you're doing it anyway. I cannot respect that. That to me is the very definition of evil, which means ill intent.
Because they're
Right?
they're getting the appointments, they're getting the airtime, they're on the lecture circuit, they get onto the Abraham Accords, they're an ambassador. Look it up. Look at that dodgy outfit and who's behind that. The Abraham Accords.
Abraham Accords? Okay.
Yeah, the Abraham House. Abraham House. Abraham House.
Abraham House, okay.
Check that outfit. Around the money
Hold
behind
on.
that.
So, hold on. Let me go put that in my little. Open up a tab.
So he's like some kind of ambassador for Abraham House, right? And so you get invited. Like someone recently said to me, "Oh, he's in New Zealand giving a talk here. It was amazing, but he was still pushing the childhood vaccines are safe." Blah blah blah. He sat here opposite me in the studio and talked about how great the vaccines are, children's vaccines, and I was like, "What?" And off air, I said to him, dude, what the hell are you talking about? A cursory examination will tell you what a crock of shit it is. How can you tell me you've been like this lifelong advocate against big pharma when you've totally blindsided this massive product that they've been pushing down all the kids, and bodies and injecting them and causing so much harm? Like, that's the one thing you've not looked into? Like, seriously? And now,
Right.
like, you got it so wrong with COVID vaccine. You don't think to check the other vaccines, but not only that, you go out of your way to promote it. Like, what the fuck? And then he's like, "Oh, I haven't had a chance to look into it." But then Suzanne Humphries tells me that's a crock of shit because he was at a conference with her in the States where she gave a talk lambasting and destroying all childhood vaccines. So he did know they're all a crock of shit at the time when he came on my podcast and said they're the best thing since sliced bread. So look, there's two types of, actors or controlled agents or whatever you want to call it. Like, look, you can be willingly or unwillingly controlled, directly or indirectly controlled, knowingly or unknowingly controlled, right?
Yeah.
And So you can have this unwillingly, unknowingly, indirectly controlled. He could be
Right.
that. They know
Right.
that he is chasing certain things, fame, this, that, glory. And you know what? Fame is a powerful opium.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it is.
Ooh,
Ooh,
it's
it
very
is.
seductive, very seductive. Ooh, give me some of
Especially,
that.
especially when you're somebody that growing up had sand kicked in your face. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is one of the things that we don't talk about enough that is going on throughout Silicon Valley. These were all the folks that were made fun of and tormented by the jock class and everything. You know what I mean? These are the ones that couldn't get the hot cheerleader, stuff like that. So now they're at this place where I got money, and now you see Bezos and his lady and her showing out at showing everything out at the inauguration and all this other stuff, right? It comes down to this frailty of the ego construct that people
Dude,
have.
Dude, listen, look, I think you've nailed it. Like, are you trying to tell me this guy was struggling to get chicks when he was younger? Let me just show you. You think this guy was struggling to get a chick? Right? Dude, you've nailed it. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
It's Revenge of the Nerds is happening. It's not funny.
It's not funny.
No. It's just not funny. That's what's going down, man.
It's not funny. It's not funny. Oh, dude, we could go on and on, but listen, we need to wrap up in a few minutes. But listen, look,
Okay.
I want to ask you something.
Yo.
How old are you?
I'm 51, bro.
Nice. I'm 50 next week.
Nice. Congratulations. You made it.
Ta-da! Tell me, so you're like me, like you're a 76 kid or something like that. 74, 73. I'm 75.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what I mean. We're very similar. We grew up in the 80s, and although I wasn't chasing sex in the 80s, I can tell you that right now. But anyway, listen, you didn't need to say anything. But tell me, like, where were you born? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in LA.
LA. Nice.
Yeah, man.
Dude,
I grew up in LA during the Red and Blue Wars, during the gang wars. Like that's what we did. We went to gang parties all the time. I mean, every party there'd be gangsters there. And here's a crazy thing, Doc. Like you'd never let your kid do this now, right? We would go to parties, and before we would go into the place, it is always a house party. We would all figure out where we were going to meet once the party got shot up. Right? Like that's what we did. And damn near every party we went to for years and years got shot up. You know, but you didn't stop you from going. Testosterone is powerful. It does not make you think properly all the time.
Shot up as in like people were shooting there.
Yeah, people got shot. Yeah, I mean, I've watched people get shot and killed. You know,
What the fuck?
Yeah, it just became it. See, that's the danger of it all. It becomes normal, which allows you to be dispassionate towards it. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking only about what you want to get out of that experience. And so it sucked for somebody else, but clearly that'll never happen for me, right? Because I was a foolish teenager, you know, and then you go to these parties and you know, and sometimes it's somebody that you know, but a lot of times it's not. So it's easier to kind of be like, well, that person isn't me, and it's not somebody I know. So it's not somebody I consider family. So there's no emotional toil that comes with it to want to say, you know, this has got to stop. It wasn't until I went to the Woodley Park shootout in, I think it was 91 or 92. We're at this place called Woodley Park in the Valley, and it's this huge circle of gangsters and cars and stuff like that, and everybody and college students, and everybody's just kind of partying in the middle. And I'm standing next to this one dude, and this other guy comes up to him and says, hey, you know, everybody's got their vehicles open, and they're showing all their $1,000 sound systems and stuff like that with their Rockford Fosgate amps and kickers and all that stuff, right? So everybody's showing up, but this one dude walks up to him and says, yo, homie, come up off that vehicle. I'm standing like 6 feet from this guy. And the guy said, okay, hold on one second. And he goes into his vehicle looking like he was gonna, you know, give him the keys and be like, okay, you got it. And he grabs a pistol underneath his seat, turns around, and the other guy pulls on him. And I'm standing there, and this dude's chest just gets blown open right in front of me. It just goes from white shirt to red like that. And and everybody, because everybody had a gun there, everybody starts shooting. It's this crazy thing. And then I realized I was lucky to get out of there with my life. And I was like, I'm never going to one of those parties again. And that was the last time I went to one of those things. But that's the life I lived growing up.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was, so, yeah.
Wow. I mean, oh my God. Here was I in Scotland and Glasgow watching Chips thinking California was amazing. Anyway, listen. You remember Chips?
No.
Yeah, the California highway.
Ponch and John, right?
Yeah,
of course. Right.
Bloody hell. Right. So, and like, what did your mum and dad do?
They never knew.
No. What were they working as? What did they do?
Oh, my mother was she worked in juvenile corrections, so she worked at as that, and my father was a professor. Yeah, so she worked at Juvie Hall, and my father was a professor. So
professor.
Strict,
oh my God.
Strict in education. That's where I was raised in.
So a kind of privileged background. Like, you weren't like, single parent, blah blah blah. Drug addict,
when I was young.
alcoholic.
Yeah, but we were never like, no, we never had anything like that. But see, the reason we didn't have anything like that was because we had a strong family unit that was led by my grandmother, and that strong family unit that was led by my grandmother, like my family is definitely a FAFO family, and that's pretty much fuck around and find out, like like. We're definitely that kind of family. So it's like, as a kid, you learn very early, like, if you're going to do some dirt, you better be really good about concealing it, because if it gets found out, there's going to be some hell to pay.
Nice.
Like that's just how it was. Like I'm in the last generation in the United States. We had in black families, there's a history from the deep South of switching, where you would send a kid out to go tear a little tree branch off and then bring it back in when they did wrong, so that you could punish them, you could whip them with it. Like, dude, I'm from that last era.
Dude, you're not really much of a black dude. I'm blacker than you.
Yeah. Well, what's in the pants might say different, but that's all right.
Oh, it's not going to be. Let's not go there. Let's just not go there. So, and then you decide to become a doctor in naturopathic medicine, and look where your career's taken off. It's kind of wild, isn't it, when you look back? Like,
it's all
you never had it
destiny.
planned.
Yeah. No, I actually wanted to be an astronaut. As a kid, I wanted to go out into space and be an astronaut or play football. Those were the two things that I aspired to. And then I realized that God did not bless me with the body to handle men that are 6'4" and 250 pounds that could run 4.40s and everything like that. So that was
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I'm 5'7", and I'm giving up the fighting and jiu-jitsu. These boys are half my age, twice my size, and it's like, fuck that. No, it's too much.
Have you studied any Wally J stuff?
No. I work in a Roger Gracie gym, and it's
those are they're really to me, everybody should learn how to fight. It was a game changer for me, because the first thing you got to learn is to get over the fear of getting hit.
100%.
Once you've got over that fear, now you can stay cognizant and aware in any situation, not just if it's a physical fight, but in anything. But it's such a key thing for everybody, men especially, to learn how to do, is to learn how to go and get hit and to hit back.
And control your breathing. Control your breathing so that you're focused. So you see, you don't panic. Yeah. You don't go crazy. Just keep it under control. Don't gas out. No, 100%. Can I just tell you something? Tell your girlfriend this, okay? Tell her, you know what the greatest act of resistance is against the enemy?
What?
You don't know yet?
No.
Dude,
no.
It's making as many freedom-loving babies as possible.
Yeah. I don't know if I might be done with my baby making years, bro. I'm 51, man.
Men can keep going. You don't understand. Like, I've got a friend who's 72 and he's got a little kid. So trust me, it can happen.
Dude, do you really want to be 72 and changing diapers? Do you really want to be doing that?
No, I've got 3 now, so I'm cool. But you just need to do your bit for the resistance. Like, we
I've
need
done my bit. I'm good. I I
We
got
need
kids.
little baby Ealys. We need little baby Ealys. Oh, you already got some. You already got
Oh,
some.
they're roaming around. Yeah, my oldest is 19. Yeah, they're roaming around.
Lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I've stocked the population up, and now I teach everybody to keep stocking the population up, and I make sure that they ain't shooting blanks, when they go to stock. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's all good.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm really glad to hear that. Right, listen, final question of the day. And the only reason I'm
Okay.
wrapping up is because I need to put the kids to bed and read bedtime stories. But otherwise I could
Yeah,
keep
amen.
going. I could keep going. But listen, I mean this, like you're a brother from another mother, man. Seriously.
Amen. Feel the same.
Ah, you're a good soul. You're very much
Isn't
good
it
soul.
isn't it nice to find folks like that and go like, oh God, not everybody is nuts.
Right? Dude, after a while, like I was getting quite disillusioned because I was coming out like I'm not chasing fame or anything or money. I had a
Right.
great fucking job, right? Really good, paid well.
Right.
I worked my socks off. Yeah, I'm from a working class background, immigrant family, really tough upbringing. Got to where I was, big London foot and ankle surgeon. London, one of the biggest cities in the world. Well, what more could you want, right? And now, I did not want this. It was not something I was craving for. But now I'm here. I'm like over the moon, and I'm really glad what I'm doing. But in my journey, I doing the podcasting and reaching out to people. So many of my so-called heroes, dude, beware meeting your hero. Like,
Oh,
there's
worst thing you can do.
such a disappointment. Such a disappointment. And you
Yeah.
realize how so many of these people are flawed. So many of these people are literally grifters. The pro-vax people accuse a lot of them of grifters. Like, yeah, I get it though. Like, they sell their soul to the devil to get that prime time, to get that attention, the airtime, to sell their little shitty supplements, you name it, whatever. It's just a disappointment, man. Right? Really? It's just like, Lord. And the one thing it's taught me is like, stop looking for other people to save the day. Like, ain't happening.
Yeah.
You need to save yourself. That's it.
right.
Take care of your family, your community.
That's right.
That's it. That's it. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
The person who's going to save you is in the mirror.
Amen. And that's why, when I met you, and you're just so authentic and genuine, and you say it as it is. And I like we probably don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot, and I still respect your opinion and I learn from you. And you've been doing this a very, very long time. And to me, you seem like a good one, man. You're a good egg.
Hey, let me ask you this though. Where is it written that to like or love somebody, we got to agree on everything? There is nobody I've ever met, my parents included, that I agree with everything that they say or do, but it's not a condition of love, to do that. Like, that is really that cancel culture, eugenics bullshit that's come in and infected our entire world, where we got to be like, oh, if they don't agree with me on this one point, I can't be around them.
100%.
Why is that? That's some why?
Dude, I don't agree with myself from last week. So what?
That's what I'm saying. Like, how many things have I been wrong on that I've had to change my mind on, right?
Right,
Like,
right. You don't even need to go back 20 years. You don't even need to go back 20 years. Like, literally last month, I'm like,
Right.
I'm like, oh shit. Did I say that? Oh my God. Oh, I could have said that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, listen, final question
bro.
of the day. You're on your deathbed, about to meet your maker, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your family, your kids, everybody's around you. Everybody's around you. Oh, sorry, just slipped out. Everyone's around you on your deathbed. And, before you pass on to the other side, what words of wisdom and advice are you going to give them?
Trust yourself.
That's it?
That's it. Trust yourself.
You died quickly.
I got things to do. I got places to go, bro. There's a whole massive universe I want to go check out. Like, I've been here enough. I've seen you. I know you. Trust yourself. I'm out.
No. Do you know what? It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's deep and it's profound. And I agree. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Love yourself. Trust yourself.
That's it.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm going to stop the recording soon. I'm going to keep my window open. When yours says 100% uploaded, you can shut your browser down. Please send me an up-to-date profile picture, front-facing, head and shoulders, not one from 20 years ago, please. High resolution, like 1 megapixel. I'd be very grateful. I can find all the links for you and write the bio. I don't need it. I just need a nice picture. And I'm going to go on a break now for 2 weeks. I'm going to be digitally fasting. I won't have my phone or my laptop. So this podcast won't come out for about 3 weeks. So if you don't see it, there's a reason why, because I'm going AWOL. I just need that time out. You know, I don't give a shit what's happening in the world. Fuck that. I'm off. I'm switching off. You know, I need to switch off.
That's so good. I'm so happy for you, man. That's such a good thing. You're gonna have a great time, bro.
Mate. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and/or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.